Good evening, squad. How we all doing tonight? Let's double check that thing. Yeah, okay, everything is great. G-Dwarf, just in time with that 14-month resub. 4 plus 2 plus 8 equals 14. Clearly this coincidence means something important. I'm not sure if that's a coincidence. Hey, G-Dwarf. Yeah, so we're playing more of 428 Shibuya Scramble tonight. If you haven't caught the other streams, I'm not sure I can help too much. I can help a little. There's a lot going on. We're kind of not super far into this game, but we are fairly involved. I need to look at this timeline. Right, so we're in the 1 o'clock? Yeah, the 1 o'clock time zone of our 5 protagonists, 5 timelines. We got Tama to basically her job being over. Pretty sure we know who she is, though the game didn't really confirm it. She's got amnesia. We've not done anything with Achi yet, or Kano. Looks like Minoru Kao we did a little. Yeah. Alright. Let's just pick somebody. Let's go see what's up with Achi and Tomi. He's helping her run away. The man with the cane crooked his finger on the trigger. Achi stepped in front of Hitomi, shielding her with his body. If you want to shoot her, you have to shoot me too. Suddenly, the assassin's head jerked forward. He pitched face first onto the pavement and lay still, revealing a foreign man standing behind him. Oh hey, it's Creepy McCreepster. In one hand, the stranger clutched a metal pipe. Oh no, we're not gonna trust them, are we? No, wait, we wouldn't. He was the one who first tried to take the, bag, the attaché case from Hitomi, which means she's gonna go with him or something. Ugh. Hitomi, Achi asked, you know that guy? Hitomi's eyes went wide. That's the man from the scramble. The one who told me to go to the van. Wait, one of the kidnappers? Why would he help us? I'm not sure. The newcomer fixed his eyes on Achi. Hey man, Achi approached the stranger. I'm not sure what's going on here, but thanks for the assist. Whoa! The man took a sudden swing with his pipe. Achi barely managed to dodge out of the way. What the hell? Once again, Achi made sure Hitomi was safely behind him. Guess I gotta let my fists do the talking. You know, if he transforms into a Power Ranger at any point, I would be very happy with that. And she quickly adopted a fighting stance. Be careful, Hitomi warned her, voice trembling. I read that weirdly. All my pauses were in the wrong spot. Don't worry, it's just a pipe. I'll just snatch it away from him and make him tell us where your sister is. Achi judged the distance between them carefully as he stared his opponent down. The metal pipe gave this thug considerable reach. One solid hit from that thing and Achi wouldn't stand a chance. He needed to end this in one punch. The crook sized him up for a few moments, then lunged forward to attack. Now! Achi sidestepped to avoid the incoming blow, then delivered a vicious left hook to his adversary's jaw. The man went down hard. Achi gazed at his fallen foe, flexing his knuckles. The thing about guys who bring weapons to fights is they always let themselves get too cocky. He has a tattoo that says skill. That seems like such... He looked the guy over. The man had a tattoo peeking from one of his ratty sleeves. Come on, buddy. You can't clock out just yet, Achi said. Get up. I've got a few questions for you. He knelt down to grab the man by his collar. Halfway to his feet, the man pulled a gun from his breast pocket. Oh, didn't know you were packing heat? I am surprised the game didn't explain heat right there. Weird. Achi took a step back. Achi took a quick step backward. The man's eyes brimmed with rage. He looked ready to pull the trigger at any moment. But he didn't get the chance. Because the other man with the cane had regained consciousness. Back on his feet, he trained his own gun on the foreigner. The foreigner quickly shifted his attention to the other gunman. Oh, no, you don't. Achi darted forward and kicked the kidnapper in the hand as hard as he could. The gun went flying from his grasp. With a low snarl, the man took up the metal pipe again. Rather than go for Achi, however, he charged the man with cane. Achi watched in astonishment as the two men grappled. Now's our chance! Grabbing Hitomi by the hand, Achi broke into a run. Then we sat on a seesaw. They ran for a long time, finally stopping to rest in a quiet municipal park. As they sat catching their breath, Achi sensed a new tension in Hitomi. She hadn't said a word since their latest escape. She has to die, Achi. It's for her own good. Right, that was what the gunman said last time. In his mind, Achi replayed what the man with the cane had said. So, Hitomi, Achi hesitated, about what happened back there. Yeah? She sounded like she'd been far gone in her own thoughts. You gotta believe me. I have no idea who that guy was. Never seen him before in my life. He must have been saying that stuff to confuse us, to trip us up. Yeah? Hitomi said again. Is that what's been bothering you? Huh? Now it was Achi's turn to go monosyllabic. I wasn't expecting that word there. Well, Achi, you're kind of famous around Shibuya, right? I don't know about that. Way back when, he'd been the leader of SOS. Nowadays, he was just some guy who picked up trash. That was nothing to brag about. When someone's famous, it's not unusual for someone else to recognize them and know their name. So, yeah, I was surprised back there, but no matter what that man may have said, I trust you. I mean, look at how many times you put yourself in danger to protect me. Hitomi sounded pretty resolute. Achi was glad that she believed him, but that raised another question. So then how come you've been so quiet? I've just been thinking about things. Like, what that man from the Scramble might be after. It was true that his actions didn't make a lot of sense. Yeah, he seemed more interested in taking out the man with the cane than going after you. Case of mistaken identity? Not likely. Let's go with bad blood. Maybe there's bad blood between them. Achi let out a little chuckle. If we're lucky, maybe they'll take each other out for us. He felt a rush of relief, reassured that Hitomi didn't doubt his motives. Regardless, though, we have to track down that blue van. The sound of a child's cry came from behind them. Hey! Turning to look, they saw the kidnapper rushing toward them. He had knocked over a little girl who was in his way. No rest for the weary, Achi sighed. Yet again, he and Hitomi sprinted away. Do you think he took out the guy with the cane? Hitomi's words came between panting huffs. Maybe. Achi glanced back at their pursuer. What? There was someone else with him. Now they were being chased by two foreigners. I like this better when we're just running from the one guy with a cane. In a one-on-one fight, Achi was confident he could keep Hitomi safe. One-on-two, though, that was a different story. One guy might get a hold of her while he was facing off against the other. He had to make sure they lost these creeps no matter what. Oh, we have to jump to that. Alright. Osawa then. Let's see how he's holding up. I don't deserve to be forgiven for what I've done. We may have both done the same thing, but my motives, those were different, and so I don't regret what I did. And yet, if someone were to ask if there was some small part of me that wanted to see the results of my research, I could not deny it. Osawa grabbed his shoes from the entryway and then headed for the back door. He didn't want the detectives in his living room to know he was going to meet with Makino. That pest Kajiwara was nowhere in sight. Now was his chance to slip away. Gotcha! Ugh. Speak of the devil, Kajiwara had snuck up behind him. Are you going out? The detective asked. No, I was just... Osawa felt something inside his shoe. Glancing down, he saw a rubber duck stuffed inside it. Is this your doing? I laid a booby trap, or rather, a ducky trap. Fun fact, booby trap, originally a type of lethal trap used during wartime to catch clumsy or unwary soldiers. Boobies. In modern parlance, however, the term frequently signifies a harmless prank, such as setting a blackboard eraser atop a classroom door so that it falls onto the head of whoever opens the door, which is a very Japanese anime thing that happens because their doors slide. That's how they said it. Yeah. Kajiwara beamed with self-satisfaction. You know, you act like a grade schooler, Osawa said. Indeed, sir. I am a grown man with a youthful heart. Leave it to Kajiwara to yet again miss the point entirely. With a sigh, Osawa tossed the duck at him. Kajiwara caught it nimbly in one hand, then stuffed it right into his pocket. I won't tell you that you aren't allowed to leave, sir. All I ask is that you tell me where you've been, and where you plan on going. My work is highly confidential. I'm not at liberty to discuss just everything about. Please try to work with me on this, sir, Kajiwara interrupted. He leaned in, uncomfortably close. Do you recall what I said before? About how I'd appreciate if you didn't keep secrets from me? Osawa hesitated, inwardly debating how much he should share. Kajiwara is just so... Like, I feel like he might be in on this somehow, so I kind of want to lie to him. Let's go with a lie. I'm just gonna go buy some cigarettes, he lied. Kajiwara flashed an awkward smile. Now that's odd. I didn't think you smoked, Mr. Osawa. I'm getting them for I've never seen your wife smoke either, sir. And besides... Kajiwara leaned in closer to him. Your wife isn't even home right now, is she? This wasn't going as Osawa had hoped. Evidently, he wasn't a very good liar. Even so, he decided to double down. Alright, fine. It was actually Mr. Tanaka who asked me to get them. Oh ho, now that's surprising. Is that the sort of thing he'd ask of you, Mr. Osawa? What was that noise? I didn't like it. Kajiwara was genuinely gifted at getting on one's nerves. Osawa barely contained an urge to punch the detective right in the face. Well, no matter, I suppose, Kajiwara went on at last. Just try not to wander too far. Oh, and also... He produced something that looked like a small transceiver from inside his coat. Please take this with you. What the heck is it? It's a bug tracker, sir. It'll beep in response to a nearby listening device. I don't need this. He pushed Kajiwara's hand aside and the bug tracker fell to the floor. Mr. Osawa, you mustn't underestimate the lengths to which these kidnappers might go. For once, the detective's face was all seriousness. Alright, fine. Osawa snatched up the device and headed out the door. Makino's car was parked out front. A driver stood alongside it. Osawa exchanged a wordless greeting with him, then got into the back. He found Makino reclining in one of the luxurious leather seats. "Now then," Makino said, "what did you want to ask me about?" Lighting a cigar, he glanced sidelong at Osawa. "I was hoping you could explain the situation to me, sir." "Which situation would that be?" So he was going to have to beat around the bush even now. Osawa suppressed an urge to shout at him. "Are you the one who let the antiviral out of the lab, sir?" "Yes, that was me." Makino didn't bat an eyelid. So why had he been so coy a few moments earlier? "But how? The fingerprint authentication system is almost unbreakable. Getting access to the storage area would..." He trailed off as a thought suddenly occurred to him. It was not strictly true that fingerprint authentication was the only means of entry. Osawa and Tanaka had both set up passwords as a failsafe in case an injured fingertip somehow prevented them from operating the scanner properly. But these passwords were 10-character alphanumeric strings. No one could just haphazardly fumble their way in. Could Makino have sent a request to the electronic locks manufacturer and asked them to unlock it then? No, that required the approval of 6 board members, and Osawa was one of those 6 people. There really seemed to be no way of getting in without leaving any trace. "You're absolutely right, of course," Makino said with a grin, as if reading his thought. "I couldn't gain access to the lab without you and Tanaka, but I didn't have to." He exhaled a large plume of smoke. "You remember when we released the samples for animal testing?" "No, it couldn't be." Osawa broke out in a sweat. "Ah, but it could," Makino said. "I had them divert some of the samples intended for animal testing. Naturally, that didn't leave any record of anything being taken from the lab." Osawa bit his lip hard. He couldn't help but feel betrayed by his company. But why? Makino let out a nasal, one-note chuckle. "You don't seem to grasp just how valuable this thing really is." "What do you mean by that, sir?" Makino lowered his voice. "There's a major world power out there that has already weaponized the UA virus." For a moment, Osawa thought that was just a sick joke, but the look on Makino's face told him otherwise. "I've been informed that it was recently used on a military installation in the Middle East. Within 12 hours of dispersal, there were at least 800 casualties. If you include civilians, the number jumps to over 2,000. Any evidence of the disease agent and the bomb that delivered it has, of course, been covered up." Sawa listened in amazement, his outrage that any government would commit such an atrocity, not quite suppressing his excitement at discovering that the virus could be propagated by explosive means. He felt a flush of guilt at his own fascination. "The antiviral you created, Osawa, has the potential to render this weapon useless. Right now, Koshi Pharmaceutical possesses the sole means to combat UA." Makino's lips curled into a boastful grin. "Any number of countries would love to get their hands on it. The major power in question has offered an unprecedented sum, and that's hardly a surprise. Having a monopoly on the antivirus makes the weapon itself that much more valuable." To Osawa, this was a glimpse into another terrifying world, one he had barely imagined previously. "And so you wanted to get human testing over with as soon as possible. Is that it?" he spat. Makino shrugged. "I explained full well to the locals what the risks of experimentation were, and they were paid in accordance with said risks. They willingly consented to infection with the UA virus." "Sophistry," Sawa huffed. "Nothing more. You used money to deceive a bunch of poor farmers." "Come on, Osawa. Who's being disingenuous now?" Makino eyed him with contempt, and then let out another puff of smoke. "I know you, Osawa, and I know you're not really concerned for some bunch of hick farmers. All you care about is your research. The thing that's really nagging you right now is that someone went ahead and did the final clinicals without you." "Oh, spare me the ridicule, sir." "As a virologist, I have a moral duty to..." "To what?" Makino barked. "Go to the media with this? You have any idea how much money the company has thrown at your lab to keep it up and running?" Fun fact! Osawa's lab has incurred expenses of roughly 30 billion yen in developing the antiviral medication. Okoshi Pharmaceutical spends approximately 200 billion yen per year on research and development. Osawa's work is the single most costly element of that budget. Osawa gaped. I do appreciate all the company has done for me, sir. He spoke so quietly that his voice was nearly inaudible. In any event, Makino said, now that you know about the human testing, I can't let you go to America. How do you know about that? He'd insisted that I keep his plan to relocation a secret, but apparently she told her father regardless. I mean, she's against it, so yeah, of course she did. If you insist on making the move anyway, I'll use any means necessary to stop you. Makino regarded Osawa with a bloodshot gaze. Any means necessary? Osawa swallowed the lump in his throat. Sir, you don't mean that my daughter's kidnapping was... Don't be ridiculous, Makino said before Osawa could finish. Of course that wasn't me. Nevertheless, I'll do what I must to keep you in line. Remember that. Understood, sir. I'll turn down the U.S. job offer. Osawa heard his own voice like the thin drone of a tiny insect. He felt utterly powerless. I can't simply take your word on that, Makino said. Do it now. I want to hear you do it myself. He jutted his jaw toward the phone in the backseat console. This probably leads to a bad end, so let's just try it. Couldn't this wait just a little bit, sir? Osawa asked. Maybe he could still find a way out. You already know what my decision is, Makino said. His tone carried an edge of intimidation. Osawa didn't reply. He simply stared at the telephone. He felt like an insect who'd had all its legs plucked off. You need to think about your wife, too. Makino's words were barely above a murmur. Realizing that his boss was speaking as Ai's father, Osawa couldn't bring himself to resist further. He reached out for the phone. It would be around 10 p.m. local time for the American firm. He decided to call his contact's personal phone. The headhunter was shocked to hear that Osawa wanted to decline the position. When he pressed for the reasons behind the decision, Osawa hung up. Visibly relieved, Makino lit up a fresh cigar. Sir, there's one thing I don't understand. And what's that? Osawa's head was feeling fuzzy. The smoke inside the vehicle had gotten extremely thick. If someone has this top secret information, why wouldn't they threaten the company as a whole? Why send those emails to me personally? I'm not sure. There's an internal investigation already underway. We'll find the source of the leak soon enough. At this point, though, Osawa wasn't sure knowing who originally leaked the info mattered much at all to him. If you'll beg my pardon, then, sir, Osawa said. He put his hand on the door handle. A sudden high-pitched chirp sounded from his pocket. The bug tracker Kajiwara had given him had picked up a signal. Is that your cell? Makino asked. Oh, yes. That's mine. He hurriedly hopped out of the car and reached into his pocket. Is everything all right, sir? The driver was still waiting outside the car. He leaned toward Osawa, looking concerned. Was it you? Osawa stepped close to the driver. Did you send me those emails? What are you talking about, sir? Don't play dumb with me, Osawa said. You're the only person who could have planted a listening device on a company car. Listening device? The driver raised an eyebrow in confusion. What are you after? Sir, what are you talking about? Who told you to do it? Tell me. The driver fled back into the car. Osawa clutched the bug tracker hard as he watched the vehicle pull away. He went back to his house, still gripped by confusion to find Ai waiting in the entryway. She must have gotten home while he was out. You were with my father, weren't you? She sneered at Osawa as he slipped off his shoes. Yes, I was, he replied. And it's over. What's over? She knows damn well what. He struggled to contain his irritation. America, I'm not going, he huffed. Oh, really? Well, that is good news. She sounded sincerely pleased. Maybe a little more pleased than Osawa cared for. I need to go finish up some work things, he mumbled. He hurried to his study up on the second floor. He threw himself down in front of his computer. There hadn't been any progress on the investigation, as usual. Just how long was this all going to go on for? Were all kidnapping cases this drawn out? Fun fact, kidnapping cases! A specialized victim support team belonging to the Special Criminal Investigation Unit has been deployed at Osawa's house. The members of this team are all specialists who have received training in such skills as negotiation, high-speed motorcycle and automobile driving, running phone traces, special communications, and phone records acquisition. Osawa was growing more and more uneasy. He could barely contain himself at this point. Wasn't there something, anything, that he could do? He glanced over at his monitor. That's an idea. He could look up kidnapping investigations on the internet. That might give him some insight into the current situation. Don't Google it! Kidnapping, police investigations, hostages. He typed the 3 words into the search field. The engine pulled up over 100,000 hits. He scanned the beginning of the list for anything that might be useful. One of the site links caught his eye. How the police do it! It looked like a page containing information on various types of police cases. He clicked on the link for kidnapping cases and began to read. Even if the hostage wound up safe in the end, the site informed him the police lost face if the culprit got away. And if the hostage were killed and the kidnapper evaded capture, the media would have a field day. This made apprehending the suspect an absolute necessity. Even if a person's life was on the line, when it came to a kidnapping case, the police prioritized making the arrest. Taking his hand off the mouse, Osawa sat back and thought. He wasn't going to be able to relax until he heard Maria's voice again. But if the police prioritized arresting the suspect, why were they just letting things stay in limbo now? Didn't they have the crooks under surveillance? He couldn't wrap his head around that. The internet hadn't been able to give him the info he'd hoped for after all. That sounds to be expected. Unable to do anything for Maria, but wait. He turned his thoughts to how his opportunity to transfer to the US had passed him by. The research facilities in America would have been top tier. Some part of him still couldn't quite accept what had happened. He stole a quick look back at the door, then surfed to the Aya Kamiki fan community for people 40 and over. Whenever something was weighing on his mind, posting to these forums seemed to turn his mood back around. He knew that now wasn't really the time to be doing this, but he needed to do something to calm and quiet his mind. He started a new forum topic. In the title field he wrote, Aya Kamiki, expanding into the US. With Aya Kamiki still at the height of her popularity, does anyone think it would be exciting if she ventured to the American market? I know I would. She's not the sort of artist who deserves to be confined to Japan. She should be recording in an American studio, staffed by the industry's best. I'd love to see her career really take over. There. He wound up getting into a little back and forth with himself. Hopefully he'd get a response from someone else soon. A sudden shrill noise startled him so much that he nearly cried out. His heart fluttered like that of a young child who'd been caught in some prank. Realizing the sound was coming from the bug tracker, he pulled it from his pocket and took a few breaths to steady himself. Evidently, someone had bugged his study as well. Tracker in hand, he walked toward the center of the room. What direction was the signal coming from? He tried heading over toward the window. Here, maybe? Next, he headed over to his desk. Here too? The bug tracker was picking up signals from all over the room. Had there been that many listening devices planted in here? Mr. Osawa? It's Kajiwara. Ah, perfect timing. Osawa hurried to let the detective into the study. The bug tracker's picking up signals. Oh? Yes, from all over the room. What should I do? Mr. Osawa, please calm down. As if that's even possible right now. It feels like there must be 10, no, maybe 100 listening devices in here. Kajiwara didn't miss a beat. Let me be honest with you. That bug tracker is broken. What? Osawa was dumbfounded. Broken? But this is the one I got from you, right? Well, yes, but mine isn't detecting anything. Kajiwara produced an identical bug tracker from his pocket. And as he'd said that, it wasn't getting any signal. As I recall, Mr. Osawa, the one that was dropped on the floor when I was trying to Right. Dropped on the floor, sure. Ah, yes, that's right. More like I shoved it. That must have been when it broke, sir. The strength ebbed from Osawa's body. He didn't even have the mental energy to be angry anymore. He gave the tracker a whack with the palm of his hand, and the beeping stopped. Right, he said. What can I do for you? Kajiwara clapped his hands together as if he'd just remembered something. Ah, right. We have a big problem. The toilet again, Osawa sighed. No, it's not that. It's something worse. Kajiwara's face turned grim. Something worse? I mean, maybe something happened. Had something happened to Maria? He needed to hear the detective out. What is it? Osawa asked. Go on, tell me. He did his best to remain composed. Well, you see, we ordered lunches for everyone, and it looked like there were 2 still left over, so I wound up eating them. There was an awkward pause. Osawa didn't have the foggiest idea of how to respond. My deepest apologies, sir. I ate the lunches intended for you and your wife. Kajiwara bowed profusely. And I really do need to apologize. They were tonkatsu bento boxes, and they were delicious. The meat was so tender, and the batter so crisp. With each and every bite, the rich flavor just filled my mouth more and more. Osawa felt a blood vessel burst in his skull. Don't like that sound effect. Listen, you. Get your goddamn act together. Or, he didn't get to finish that thought. A pathetic little gurgle sounded from his stomach. Ah, see, Kajiwara said. You are hungry. He fussed sheepishly with his hair. Oh my god, is he gonna offer him the banana? At the talk of food, Osawa realized abruptly that he hadn't eaten anything since the night before. Shall I make something for you? The detective asked. This is all my fault, after all. You can cook? Osawa wasn't sure how thrilled he was with the idea of Kajiwara helping him. You mustn't judge people based on outward appearances, Mr. Osawa. Alright, fine, go ahead then. His newfound hunger was making it hard for him to think. It would certainly behoove him to eat something. He led Kajiwara to the kitchen. What's with that getup? Wearing an apron in the kitchen is a must, sir. Fun fact! Aprons! The cartoon character printed on the apron Kajiwara is wearing is one of his own design, is modeled after the MPD's mascot, and his name is Pinpo-kun. Alas, it isn't while I'm naked. What? Naked? Oh, are you not familiar with the concept of the naked apron? The state of being entirely naked save for an apron, a form of cosplay. The views from the front, rear, and sides all often offer a certain appeal, but caution must be advised, as it may be difficult to start arguing about which presents the loveliest sight once the topic is raised. There are similar, more sexualized, naked styles as well, such as the naked sock, the naked shoe, naked neckline tie, naked ribbon, naked scarf, naked collar, and so forth. Okay, didn't see that coming. I could demonstrate if you like. No, that's quite alright. Where'd you get that apron anyway? It's mine, sir. Have you had it with you this whole time? Yes, in here. With a smile, Kajiwara pointed to his pocket. Of course. Sawa eased himself into a chair. His hunger was making him feel weak, and Kajiwara was making him feel like he was losing his mind. Oh, this is bad, the detective said. I need to whip something up for you fast. Something's definitely wrong if you don't even have a comeback. Sawa felt his anxiety mounting. Just what sort of food was this insufferable oaf going to make anyway? Probably nothing worth eating was his bet. Okay. Asking your wife is probably a bad idea because she seems really awful as a human being. Asking Tanaka seems like a better idea. Let's go with Tanaka. Maybe it was better to ask Tanaka to make his lunch instead. Osawa gave him a hurried phone call, and his assistant director was quick to agree. I'm having Mr. Tanaka help me here, he told Kajiwara. By all means, go back to your investigation. Kajiwara said. I hope you don't think I'm not inclined to help you out. Since when had helping out been Kajiwara's strong suit? That's not the issue, Osawa said. My, it's just such a shame. A friend being treated like a stranger. Oh, how I would love it if you were an actual stranger to me. While Osawa was still struggling to turn down Kajiwara's assistance, Tanaka arrived, his sleeves rolled up. He'd already removed his jacket and his necktie. All right, he said. What are we making? He sounded happy enough. Apparently he didn't mind cooking. This was a side of Tanaka that Osawa had never seen before. Oh? Will you be helping out as well, detective? Tanaka regarded Kajiwara and his apron. Of course. It's all a part of my duties while I am stationed here. Understood. Let's get started then, shall we? The pair began rummaging around the kitchen, forming an immediate bond of why can't I say that word? I've said it before. Alright, moving on. Camaraderie. Camaraderie. Kajiwara appeared into the refrigerator. Goodness, you are remarkably understocked, he said. Let's see. Could you please put these in the dinger, Mr. Osawa? The detective handed Osawa some frozen lumps of rice. You want me to help out? Of course. It is your rice, after all. Osawa wasn't sure how to respond to that. Please go ahead and ding those. Ding? I'm afraid I'm not familiar with dinging. I mean, heat them in the microwave oven, sir. Osawa stepped over to the microwave. Unfortunately, he had no idea how to work the controls. You should thaw that rice out as soon as possible, Kajiwara told him. I'm actually not sure how to operate this thing. What? The detective gasped. You don't know how to use a microwave? Kajiwara gave him a look of disbelief. It should be as simple as turning the dial. Osawa turned the dial labeled thaw, then crossed his arms with a satisfied grin. Mr. Osawa, I'm sure you already know this, but you need to put the rice inside first and then turn the dial. Osawa swallowed quietly. He put the frozen rice into the microwave, then turned the dial once more. I don't know what everyone expects, he muttered sullenly. It's not like I've ever used one of these things before. Mr. Osawa, why don't you take this and go wait somewhere? Kajiwara pulled out a sheet of bubble wrap from his pocket. Fun fact, bubble wrap first showed up on the planet Earth in the 1960s. It was originally developed not as a packing material, but as a form of wallpaper and a type of cover to prevent leaves from falling into swimming pools. These products did not sell well, however, and the manufacturer instead began to market the wrap as a packing material, after which it became a hugely successful product. What is this for? Use your fingers to pop the bubbles. That should help calm you down. Too drained to argue, Osawa did as prompted, starting to pop his way along the sheet. Well, Mr. Tanaka, Kajiwara said after they had spent a little time working at the stove, you probably don't need to stay any longer. Sorry for the trouble. It's quite all right, Tanaka replied. With so little in the way of ingredients, I guess there isn't much I could really do. Shoulders slumped, he glanced over at Osawa. I'll leave this in your hands then, detective. Are you sure you don't mind? Should I go out and purchase some more ingredients? No, that's fine. Thank you for all the trouble. No, I apologize for not being more helpful. Tanaka washed his hands and left the kitchen. Rather than calm him down, though, it was making him incredibly cross. This felt more like sort of a ridiculous punishment. They say you can learn a lot about a household by looking in the fridge, you know. Kajiwara was cooking something in a frying pan. And, Osawa asked, just what have you learned about mine? I'd better not say, sir. You might take offense. Osawa snapped another bubble between his fingers. Ah, the rice has finished thawing. Kajiwara topped the steaming bowl of rice with the fried egg he'd whipped up in his pan. Then, as if there were an afterthought, he added some pickled vegetables. Here you are, sir. Your fried egg on rice is complete. Fun fact, fried egg on rice. It's one of Kajiwara's simple recipes. Others include his white spaghetti, which is simply spaghetti that's been flavored with butter, salt, and pepper after it's been boiled. Both are a bit too basic to be properly called cuisine. But it does take a certain skill to bring the best flavor out of the ingredients with such simple seasonings. Kejiwara grinned from ear to ear. Go ahead and eat it while it's still warm. Osawa received the bowl with a dubious look. You aren't very good at cooking, are you? He said. All you had in your refrigerator were eggs and pickled vegetables, sir. I assure you, it's quite delicious. I recommend breaking the yolk and mixing it all together. Reluctantly, Osawa brought a bite to his mouth. That's good. The words came out almost unbidden. Isn't it just? Egg yolk and pickled vegetables pair quite well. Osawa couldn't help but stuff his face, slipping into a rapturous daze as he did. The more he ate, the more it stirred his appetite. I had no idea fried eggs could be this delicious. I know you probably have a long ordeal still ahead of you, sir, but please keep your chin up and hang in there. Kajiwara gave Osawa an amiable smile. Ah, that's right, he continued. And for dessert, we have bananas. No, thank you. Kajiwara grimaced as Osawa held up a hand in refusal. Right then, when you're finished eating, could you please wash the bowl? Me? Wash dishes? Osawa exclaimed in surprise, sounding like a petulant child. If someone else cooks for you, you should do the cleaning up. It's only polite. Fine, okay. While Osawa was doing the dishes, the bug detector went off again. Director, if you have a moment. Tanaka poked his head into the kitchen. I've got something urgent to discuss with you. Okay. We had a lovely little meal, and then suddenly, all the things happened. Alright, I think Kano's the only one else we haven't done who doesn't require a jump yet. Kano's our undercover detective, who is now working with, whatever this group is, the American Embassy or something. Following Kano's directions, Stanley drove toward the crime syndicate's hangout. There was a good chance that this was where Maria was being held. Traffic was practically non-existent, and they made good time. They cruised down Miyamasuzaka, then past the train station toward Dogenzaka. All the while, the two men stared out the windshield, neither inclined to make conversation. They arrived at the Shinsencho intersection. Take a right here, Kano said. You nervous? Stanley asked as he made the turn. His own tone was calm and level. Kano gave no reply. This syndicate really was holding Maria hostage up ahead. He and Stanley might wind up putting her in danger by showing up there. If it came down to it, Kano wondered, could he count on the man next to him taking the hostage safety into account? He doubted it, but there was nothing he could do about that now. They arrived at the syndicate's hangout sooner than Kano had anticipated. It was a multi-tenant building in Tomigawa, southwest of Yoyogi Park. The ratty building looked like it might come crashing down at any minute. The Black Lodge sign out front looked deliberately ominous. Kano knew the place as a bar frequented by expats from various countries, as well as a hotbed for criminal activity. I'll take point, Stanley said. You back me up. He pulled a handgun from his suit pocket. It was a compact Glock, a model frequently used by the FBI or CIA. Fun fact, Glock 17, a semi-automatic pistol developed in Austria for police and military use, notable for its incorporation of large amounts of polymer in its design. A certain Hollywood film included a line of dialogue claiming that the Glock would not show up on airport x-ray machines, but since the gun barrel itself is made of metal, this is assuredly not true. FBI is the Federal Bureau of Investigation, an American investigative bureau established by the U.S. Department of Justice in 1908. It has authority in matters involving crimes that cross state lines, as well as threats to public order such as espionage and terrorism. Generally speaking, the FBI conducts its activities within the United States. The CIA Central Intelligence Agency, one of the principal agency of the U.S. intelligence community, reporting to the Director of National Intelligence, possessing considerable budgetary resources and a vast network of highly trained personnel, the CIA carries out intelligence gathering and covert operations primarily overseas. In recent years, the organization has been devoting major efforts to counter-terrorism. Kano drew his own gun, and the two cautiously made their way inside. They immediately heard some sort of ruckus from beyond a wooden door at the far end of the hall. Please don't let this be what I think it is, Kano thought to himself. Sweat beaded on his hands as he gripped his gun tighter. He'd heard the sound of glass shattering. Then came the sound of something heavy falling to the floor. Maria! Ignoring Stanley's previous order, Kano rushed ahead, kicked down the door, and stepped inside. He walked right into a massacre. There were nearly a dozen bodies sprawled out across the floor. He thought he recognized them all, the men who'd participated in the repeated attaché case handoffs. Each appeared to have been stabbed to death. Had these guys all turned on each other? No, that couldn't have been the case. None of the victims was holding a knife, which meant that whoever had killed them must still be hiding nearby. No sooner had Kano come to this conclusion than he heard a muffled cry behind him. Stanley! The American was sprawled on the floor, face down. Kano rushed over and knelt beside him. Stanley was dead, stabbed through the back. Without an instant's hesitation, Kano stood up again, gun at the ready. He scanned his surroundings, but there was no sign of the killer. But that was impossible. Stanley had been killed mere moments ago. Someone had to be here somewhere. Out of nowhere, he felt someone press the tip of a knife into his neck from behind, right at the base of his skull. How? He hadn't noticed anyone come up on him. There wasn't even anyone else around. Nobody but the corpses scattered across the floor. Wait, the corpses? Kano hadn't checked them. Hadn't checked to make sure they were all really dead. With his last thought, he realized that that had been his fatal mistake. Whoa. Well, we got a bad end, that's for sure. Shoot. Nope, I pushed the wrong button. Alas, there's nothing to be done for poor Kano now. He wasn't prepared for whoever is wielding that knife. Sometimes it's best to not rush things. Kano and Stanley might not have had their run-in with the killer if they'd turned up a bit later. There's someone who can cause a traffic jam at 110, which should keep those two from meeting such a grisly end. I see. Okay. I mean, I think everyone... I thought we'd gotten to, Oh, I guess we didn't with Minorikawa. Alright, let's choose a different what if this thing doesn't happen. I'm going to start a ruckus. Kept his voice firm, his words short and clipped. Hey now, no need for that, sir. Just settle down. Who doesn't like a silly little magic show now and then? We've got 2 minutes. A minute can't have passed already. I wonder if that just doesn't... 1 minute. Whoa. So what kind of watch you got there? Tell me why the demo isn't starting. You know, no real reason really. The man was getting seriously flustered. I just... I want folks to get to see a little magic show first. Nope, try again. 30 seconds left. Okay, alright. What happened is the required merchandise... What happened to the merchandise? Minorikawa demanded. He gave the guy a dagger stare. Well, you know, it's just... Time's up. What? The man's face went pale. Ah, so there was a keep out. Weird that that didn't keep. Alright, we need to jump. Who's got to jump? We've got 2 in this timeline. I'd really like to jump to Tama. But I guess I can't yet. Alright, let's... Unfamiliar man jump. Where is it? No, it should be... Doing... Here we are. Man, I don't recognize. Sure, let's jump there. Yeah, oops. Sorry to keep you waiting, a girlish voice exclaimed. A moment later, a furry figure came charging into the demo room. The crowd fell silent at the sight of a young woman in a cat costume. The cat girl panted visibly. Her arms were loaded with cardboard boxes. You're late, the event organizer snapped. What the heck have you been doing? Grabbing the newcomer by one paw, he vanished with her in the back room. The chubby-cheeked girl wrapped up her magic routine and hurried after them. The audience stared at the now empty stage in confusion. Several minutes passed before the organizer reappeared. Ladies, terribly sorry to have kept you waiting, he called out. But now I am proud to introduce to you the worldwide sensation that is Burning Hammer. At a signal, the young woman and the cat appeared on stage. Allow us to explain just how this revolutionary new diet drink works. It's magic, the young woman explained cheerily. The cat nodded and threw out her arms. For the first time in human history, you can drink a single bottle and lose a whole kilogram. Just drink and burn that excess fat weight away. And with that, the sales demo was underway, a good 25 minutes behind schedule. 5 minutes into the presentation, things began to go awry. An angry clamor filled the room. What the heck are you trying to pull? Can't believe you'd actually sell something like this. The outrage had been triggered by something the young woman on stage had said. She'd inadvertently let slip that Burning Hammer was the sort of thing you could buy at a 100-yen shop. The would-be customers were furious to learn that they were about to be played for suckers. Most of them immediately tried to storm out of the room. Now, the organizer, the full-figured young woman, and the girl in the cat costume were at the door, doing their best to hold back the tide. Things had gotten pretty interesting, really. Minoru Kawa pulled out his digital camera and started firing off snapshots of the angry crowd. Digital camera. Some modern digital cameras come with the remarkable ability to automatically trigger the shutter when the subject smiles. This function also works if the camera is presented with a TV or photo image of people smiling. There are even cases of cameras recognizing faces in the wood grain of ceilings. After all, if we can make out faces in the wood when we're gazing lazily up at the ceiling, we can't fault the camera for doing the same. Unfortunately, their frenzy was so intense that he was soon caught up with the flow and pushed out of the room. Fine, I guess I'll just need to do some interviews instead of getting pictures. Excuse me, he asked one woman, would you mind if I asked you some? Shut your mouth. Would you mind telling me a bit about... Don't talk to me. Could I get a word on... Unbelievable, just unbelievable. The women were so enraged that Minoru Kawa couldn't get any of them to give him the time of day. Before long, the entire crowd had surged out of the room and departed. Ah, well, guess I've got enough to do a write-up at least. Though it would be nice to get a quote from somebody. He decided to try for an interview with the man who'd organized this fiasco. How did the guy feel, for instance? about his product scam falling through. Heading back into the event room, Minorukawa passed by the cat mascot. Excellent. So we have that jump now. The cat gave him a tiny nod and walked off without a word. He couldn't see the face of the girl inside the costume, but she seemed genuinely dejected that Burning Hammer had been a bust. Hey, I'm Minorukawa, freelance reporter. I was wondering if I could have 5 minutes of your time. The organizer sat alone in the midst of his ruined displays. Oh, it's you. The man's voice had lost all of its earlier punch. Here, my credentials. Minorukawa handed him a business card. The man introduced himself as Yanagishita, and Minorukawa got right down to business. So, your sales demo is over, Mr. Yanagishita. How do you feel right now? How do I feel? Well, tomorrow's another day, I guess. Minorukawa was impressed by the guy's candor. A little surprised to hear that, he said. I figured you'd be more disappointed. Oh, I'm plenty disappointed. I took a big gamble here to repay my debts and I lost. Yanagishita didn't seem to be trying to hide anything. Debts? Minorukawa asked. There was a girl I was in love with, Yanagishita said. I wound up spending everything on her. He stared wistfully into the distance. Ah, interesting, Minorukawa said. You wouldn't be the first man to go to such lengths for a woman. Yeah, Yanagishita said. I suppose not. A rueful smile crossed his lips. This guy didn't strike Minorukawa as some dyed-in-the-wool scam artist. But I decided that it was time to stop feeling sorry for myself, Yanagishita went on. There are plenty of people in the world who have it way worse off, you know? Hey, Sugar Shot, Julie Raiders. How y'all doing tonight? If you're not already, go give my friend Sugar Shot a follow. She cool. I don't know what she was playing tonight. What were you playing tonight, Julie? We're in the middle of a visual novel where there's some kidnappings and there's some bioterrorism and right now there's a Burning Hammer drink thing that didn't go so well for this dude, but he seems okay. Oh, you were playing WoW. I read that as WoW, not as a game title. You got that right. Minorukawa nodded in agreement. So I just figure, well, as long as I'm still alive, maybe another opportunity will come my way. A more earnest smile broke through Yanagishita's forlorn expression. Minorukawa wished Toyama could have been there to hear this fellow. I have a friend who's in an incredible amount of debt myself, Minorukawa said. He runs a publishing company, but there was a big mix-up in scratch cards in his magazine and... Scratch cards? It's not important, Minorukawa said hurriedly. Letting more people know about the whole scratch card fiasco certainly wouldn't do Toyama any favors. Anyhow, debt is a terrible thing, Minorukawa nodded sagely. Night, Julie. Thanks for the raid. Oh, by the way, this is unrelated, but are you familiar with a group called SOS? Apparently there's some legendary street gang here in Shibuya. SOS? Yanagishita shook his head. No, never heard of them. Guess I'm not gonna get any leads on that case here. Minorukawa wondered if there was anything else worth asking this guy. Maybe he can take my survey. Yeah, maybe he would be willing to take my Shibuya Now survey. Taking a little bit of the burden off of Chiaki seemed like a good idea. I have another question. How do you feel... Right, I forgot that's what my question was. How do you feel about your life right now? Huh? How do you feel about your life? Your products aren't selling, can't repay your debts, and yet you still refuse to give up, believing opportunity will come your way. How do you feel about all that? Yanagishita paused and thought. I'd say I'm a pretty lucky guy. Minorikawa was taken somewhat aback by that response. I haven't been able to sell any burning hammer, and sure, can't pay off my debts. But even so, Yanagishita looked Minorikawa right in the eye. The two cute young girls I've got working for me have stuck with me through thick and thin. Sometimes maybe you just need to be content with something like that, you know? That was refreshingly forthright. Minorikawa was surprised. I mean, so what if I've got debts? Yanagishita went on. In the long run, none of that matters. Not really. There was a knock at the door. Oh, excuse me for a moment, Yanagishita said. I wonder who could that be? He opened the door and his face froze. Damn. Wasn't quite quick enough. Mr. Minorikawa? Yes? You'll have to pardon me. I've had a little something crop up here, so if you don't mind. Oh, sure, not a problem. I've got other interviews I need to get to anyway, so I'll just... But Yanagishita was out the door before Minorikawa could even finish. Stepping out into the hallway, Minorikawa could faintly hear voices from the adjoining demo room. It sounded like Mr. Yanagishita and two other men. Minorikawa couldn't make out the words, but he could tell they were arguing about something. It was probably some consumer complaint against one of his products, or an issue with a client company, something along those lines. And people who run companies sure have it rough. You hang in there, Mr. Yanagishita. Yeah, those are definitely debt collectors. Oh, perfect timing. Minorikawa stopped short as a familiar voice called out to him. It was the man he'd spoken to earlier that afternoon about the surveillance cameras. Hey, come here for a sec. The man waved him over. What is it? I'm really busy right now. I've got a scoop for you. So, with my own eyes. Minorikawa raised an eyebrow. Give me the details. Okay, so a little while ago, I saw some foreign guy in handcuffs arguing with someone who looked like a detective. A foreigner in handcuffs? Had there been some kind of international sting or something? Whatever the case, it wasn't such a rare thing to see. Where was this? Just over there, behind the police station. Minorikawa furrowed his brow. A suspect arguing with a cop outside a police station wasn't all that weird. Still, he had a feeling it was missing something here. Well, the big thing is what happened afterward, the man said. Afterward? The man leaned in, conspiratorially. The detective undid the guy's handcuffs and let him run off. Well, what? I'm telling you, man. It had to have been like a bribe or something. A bribe? That seemed unlikely. I swear that's what it had to be. There was some wheel greasing going on. You're not making this all up, are you? Minorikawa asked. He regarded the man coldly, but the guy still seemed quite legitimately worked up. It's all true. Please, you have to report this to the police right away. Why do I have to? Minorikawa asked. If you have a tip for the police, go give it yourself. He didn't quite manage to stop himself from saying that out loud. No, I can't. I'm no good when it comes to police. Besides, they're never going to believe someone like me. Okay, so maybe he had a point there. But you're some kind of world-class reporter, right? The cops will totally take your word over that of a random nobody. Minorikawa didn't have time to debate the point. It was easier just to make the call. He phoned up the police to leave the tip. The man bowed repeatedly, looking pretty grateful. Oh, thank you so much. I haven't been able to get any business done with those scary thugs around. What thugs? What line of business are you in anyway? What? The man suddenly went pale. Oops. Gotta get going. He skittered off in alarm. Skirt. Minorikawa was left to wonder what this guy's line of work actually was, but he had more important things to worry about at the moment. He hurried off in the other direction. Before long, he arrived back at Café Lautrec. The clock on the wall showed that it was close to 2 o'clock. He had to somehow fill 6 more pages before the loan company came to him in publishing to collect. He booted up his laptop. What's with this coffee shop? Said a low, stern voice. You've got no good magazines here. Minorikawa looked up. An older man was complaining to one of the waitresses. It was the same guy who'd been yelling at his daughter earlier. Evidently, he'd been here at the cafe this whole time. Haven't you got any magazines for me to read? The man's face was a mask of irritation. Minorikawa glanced at the magazines in the rack. They were mostly geared toward a younger reader. The waitress sifted through the stacks and pulled something from the back. Perhaps this would be to your liking, sir, she said. She held out an issue of 4-star general gossip. Don't be ridiculous, the man spat dismissively. This is vulgar, low-grade filth. I wouldn't even use the paper it's printed on for compost. That was a harsh way to put it, but Minorukawa couldn't fault him for speaking the truth. The man continued grumbling as he went back to his seat. Minorukawa headed over to the magazine rack himself and picked up the gossip. He opened the front cover and found the scratch card still inserted within. If these things were still out there, it was bad news. Toyama might end up even further in debt. Bah! Minorukawa yanked the scratch card out and tore it to bits. Sir, what are you doing? The waitress rushed to stop him, only for the pieces to rain down on her like confetti. The magazine itself is still perfectly readable, Minorukawa said. There's no problem here. He strode back to his seat and gazed at his laptop screen. It still hadn't finished booting up. In the meantime, he decided to give Chiaki a call. Wow, your laptop needs an upgrade. If you use it just like for writing, yeah, ugh. She picked up right away. Hello? Minorukawa asked. Hi there, good to hear from you, Chiaki replied. How's progress? I did it, Chiaki said, her voice overcome with emotion. I managed to get people to hear me out. Of course you did. You got your pointers from me. Yes, I couldn't have done it without you, Mr. Mino. Her mood had done a complete 180. Minorukawa allowed himself a little sigh of relief. Okay then, he said. Head back to the editing department and put together an article for me. You got it, sir, Chiaki chirped in reply. I'll email you as soon as I'm done with things on my end, Minorukawa told her. Just use the DTP to slot your piece into the right spot in the layout. Fun fact, it's an abbreviation for desktop publishing. Refers to the process of editing a manuscript's layout on a computer preparatory to sending it to the printer. Also used to refer to the software used for creating such layouts. Creating layout data that is ready for printing, but has not actually been printed yet, is also sometimes called DTP. I mean, the game came out in 2008. Originally, I think. His laptop should still not be that slow. Sure thing. Minorukawa hung up, then rolled up his sleeves. He sure was towing a pretty narrow line today. The Burning Hammer event had kept him a little longer than anticipated. Now he needed to clean up his copy as soon as possible in order to stick to his schedule. When he turned back towards his laptop, however, he froze with shock. What? His laptop monitor was still black, an empty screen. There's no way it would take this long to finish booting up. Oh, it couldn't be. No, don't let it be true. Had his computer decided to pick now of all times to give up the ghost? Minorukawa felt the blood drain from his face. To be continued. Alright, we got one person to the end of 1 o'clock. 1 to 2. So, he had to jump to Tama, so I want to do that. I want to go visit girl in cat outfit. Or I guess not in cat outfit anymore, because she's going to get out of that. Out in the hallway, I passed by the man I noticed earlier, the one I didn't recognize. The sales demo's over. I wonder why he's still here. I give him a faint nod, and he nods back before slipping into the demo room. I should keep my fingers crossed for the guy. At last, I'm back outside the building. I feel bad about not returning the cat suit to the man from the rental place. Still, I can't just walk around town wearing this thing. I'll stick out like a sore thumb. I figure it's just best to leave it behind. And then it dawns on me. Hold on, I still can't get this thing off. did decision A, so let's just... Guess this cat's staying in the bag. Fun fact, a popular folk etymology asserts that the expression, let the cat out of the bag, comes from the unscrupulous practices of certain farmers who would sell a pig at market only to deceive the buyer by surreptitiously swapping out the purchased porker for a cat. The likelihood of anyone mistaking a cat, even one inside a bag, for a pig is, however, extremely low, let alone the likelihood that enough people would fall for such a scheme to warrant a phrase referring to it entering the language. I figure I'll head to the knick-knack shop as is. What? I thought for sure that jump would let us get... Alright, I guess it won't. Well, we've gotten him all the way to be continued, so that's no good. There's no more jumps in his timeline. Is there a jump in... Oh. Nope. Because didn't this... Oh, we could jump to Achi. I think. Was it under Gruff Looking Phillips? No. Here it is. Ah, that gets us through this keep out at least. That's something. As luck would have it, they soon found a crowd in their path, backs turned toward them. Excited voices rose up from the throng. Oh, what's the deal? Is something going on? It's a street fight. Fun fact, a street fight is a fight, as the name implies, that takes place out on the street, typically using bare hands and no weapons. Even a barehanded fight can result in serious injuries, though, which is why they're pretty illegal. Achi clutched Hitomi's hand good and tight. Whatever you do, don't let go. Without a moment's hesitation, he plowed his way through the crowd. Geeky Quilter, thank you for that second month resub. Happy New Year, Heather. May your year be crafty and fun. Aw. Well, you as well. Well, it was a good year for everyone. Emerging on the far side of the gathering, Ashi saw the main road ahead. Cars were zipping past in a steady stream. What do we do? There were too many cars for them to rush across the street without getting hit. But they couldn't exactly just sit and wait for the light to change. And they certainly couldn't go back the way they came. Their pursuers were getting closer and closer. Hitomi, Achi shouted. Cross? What? Dragging Hitomi by the hand, Achi darted out into the street. Moving purely by instinct, he wove his way through the gaps between the speeding cars. Yeah, this is us causing a commotion for that other timeline. When they were halfway across, the car slammed on its brakes to keep from hitting them, causing several cars behind it to crash into one another. The multi-vehicle pileup plunged the road into total chaos. Fun fact, total chaos. As a result of this chaos, traffic in the nearby area will be at a standstill for a while. While on their way to the Syndicate hideout, Shinya Kano and Jack Stanley have gotten caught in this traffic jam. Nice. In a matter of moments, the street was clogged with a long line of stopped vehicles. Achi and Hitomi's pursuers remained on the other side and did not pursue. Well, now Kano won't be dead. That'll be nice. Okay, that was crazy. Hitomi panted as she caught her breath. Well, you know what they say. Idle feet are the devil's playthings. Hands. It's idle hands. Whatever. At least they'd gotten away. Come on, let's go. Achi led the way down several twisting side streets before slowing his pace. By now, Hitomi was slumped and panting heavily. He wanted to give her some time to rest, but if they just hung around, their pursuers might still find them. He looked around and spotted a multi-tenant building. The nearest door was open. Bundles of flyers were set out near the entrance. Flyers! Flyers for Aura 4. The 22nd performance by the theater troupe The Wandering Angels. It tells you the tale of a man named Ryu, looking back on his 100-year life as a warrior. The performance features wire action as its major set piece, with Ryu and his rival Shido flying high through the air, doing battle with the magical Muramasa Blade and Beam Saber, respectively. Achi peeked inside and saw piles of plywood and painted lumber. It looked like this was a storeroom for a theater's stage props and scenery. "We can hide out in here," he said. But... Hitomi hesitated, but Achi gave her hand a little tug. "It'll be fine. There's nobody around." They stepped inside the storeroom, and Achi quickly shut the door behind them. "We should probably rest for a bit," he said. There was a wooden platform set up beside a large piece of plywood. Achi picked up a magazine that had fallen on the floor and spread it out atop the platform's dusty surface. "Here, now you can sit without getting your clothes dirty." "Thank you." Hitomi quietly took a seat. "We should probably turn off our cell phones," Achi said. "It could be really bad if they rang at the wrong moment." The two powered off their phones. Achi took a cursory look around. It didn't look like there were any way in or out besides the door they'd come in through. There was a single window set in the wall, but it wouldn't open far enough to let them through. "Yeah!" Hitomi let out a quiet gasp. Someone was outside the storeroom. Achi put a finger to his lips, and Hitomi gave a fearful nod. The window's frosted glass blocked any real view in or out. So long as they stayed quiet, they ought to be safe. Whoever was outside pressed their face to the frosted glass, trying to get a glimpse inside. The blurry visage of the foreigner who'd attacked them was dimly visible. Like the man with the cane before him, this guy was quick to catch up. The man pounded on the glass. Achi swallowed the lump in his throat. If this guy got in, they had nowhere to run. Achi turned to Hitomi. "We'll be fine, just sit tight." Hitomi clutched onto Achi's arm, hard. "Can I help you with something?" said a casual voice from outside. They saw their pursuer react at once, pulling back from the window. "That's just our storeroom, you know," the voice added. Achi heard footsteps scampering away. The kidnapper had run off. Achi exchanged glances with Hitomi and let out a tiny sigh. There were more voices coming from outside now. "What was up with that guy?" "I don't know." Whatever. Let's just hurry and get stuff tidied up." "Ugh, man, my throat's raw." It sounded like a conversation between two men. The storeroom door opened, and the men clomped their way inside. The men, Tomonari Takaya and Taro Toga, two members of the theater troupe The Wandering Angels. Takaya is the Wandering Angels star actor, playing the lead role of Ryu in today's performance of Au revoir, the troupe's 22nd piece. Last night, he slept completely naked and caught a cold, leading to the sore throat he has now. Toga is the stage director, handling things behind the scenes. He's very irritated that Shinichi Bando, in charge of the props, seems to have gone AWOL. "So, what are we getting?" Ugh. "Let's grab all those folding chairs over there." Yeah. The producer said we're gonna need a lot more seats all of a sudden. Mr. Orai said that. "Going all out for the troops' last hurrah, huh?" "Beats me, man." In no real hurry, the men went about carting the folding chairs away. They didn't notice Achi and Hitomi sitting silently in the shadows. Look, not to change the subject, but how come we're using a dry ice machine and not a smoke machine? Maybe that's why my throat's bothering me. Yeah, it's pretty weird. Nobody's even operating it, and it's still drawing a ton of power. Think it's defective? Achi and Hitomi waited for the two men to finish up. Oh, right. Was it the dry ice machine? There was a machine that was defective or something for that troupe from earlier. If they were spotted, it would probably cause a scene, and worse still, it might alert the men who were hunting them. Once they'd carried off the rest of the folding chairs, the men closed the storeroom door. The foreigner could still be somewhere nearby, though, so Achi decided they should hide out in the room a little longer. Yeah, this blows. I'm gonna get back out there to look for that blue van ASAP, but Ashi trailed off as something occurred to him. Wait a second. Now that's weird. Hitomi looked at him inquiringly. The kidnappers already have the ransom money, yeah? Ashi said. That's right. And then they told you that your sister was in some blue minivan. Isn't that kind of weird? What do you mean? Did you figure out that your sister was in the minivan by herself? Well, yes. If one of the kidnappers were with her, they wouldn't need to send me to go get her. Right, Ashi said. And yet the fact that was that as soon as the kidnappers had their money, they could have let Hitomi's sister out of the vehicle and just run off. There was no point in sending Hitomi to fetch her personally. A look of revelation dawned on Hitomi's face. Oh! That minivan had already left Dogenzaka's, she said, and it came back while we were there waiting for it, Ashi finished. He thought back to his earlier run with the blue vehicle. So then inside that minivan, there had been a bunch of foreigners inside, which meant... I mean, both these things seem true. Kidnappers had been trying to ambush Hitomi. They told her that her sister was in that minivan to lure her to it, and the kidnappers had been lying in wait inside. Do you think they were trying to kidnap me too? That's it. Achi clapped his hands together. Then they'd let your sister go and demand a ransom for you, and then they'd make her deliver the ransom money for your release. They'd be able to get, like, infinite ransom money by constantly abducting one twin after the other. Achi, you are so not the sharpest tool. Seems a little far-fetched. Oh yeah, I guess you're right. Now that she'd said so, Achi realized it was kind of a ridiculous idea. Still, what if the kidnappers really were trying to kidnap me, Hitomi said. As in, like, they accidentally abducted the wrong twin? I mean, I guess that would have been easy to botch up. That would imply they wanted me specifically and not my sister. Hitomi paused briefly and thought. Maybe you're harder than your sister or something, Achi suggested with enthusiasm. Hitomi shook her head. That can't be it. If anything, it's the other way around. Compared to my sister, I'm just... Whoa, hey, stop right there. Achi had to interrupt her. You're not just anything. Please don't. I'm just... Tears had welled up into Hitomi's eyes. Why? Why'd this have to happen to her? Why not me? Whoa, hey, come on, don't cry. I'm sorry. Cheer up. It's like that song says. Don't just stand there, wipe those tears away. That one. You know it? Is that Aya Kamiki? Yeah, that's the one. Put your hand in mine. Every single bee's a light. Huh? You know, every single bee's a light. Hitomi let out a giggle. Everything will be alright. You've got the lyrics wrong. It's everything will be alright. Ah, right. Yeah, I guess that makes more sense, I guess. Achi's mouth curled into a sheepish smile. Alright, I think we've laid low long enough, Achi said at last. I think we should be on our way? He was about to get to his feet when he heard voices outside the storeroom again. Yikes, that was pretty careless of us. Yeah, we definitely gotta watch it. Theater guys from earlier had returned, and they sounded a bit panicked. Tomonari Takeya and Taro Toga, two members of the theater group, the Wandering Angels. Takeya is the Wandering Angels star actor. Lately, in addition to appearing on their stage, he's been taking on TV drama and film work as well. The next role he's slated for is in the Sun TV's upcoming suspense drama, Sumo Queen 2, where he will play the referee who utters the lame line, "Looks like things are getting heavy," upon discovering a victim's dying message inscribed in one corner of the sumo ring. Heard folks have been messing around with the storeroom a bunch recently. Nook. And did you hear who's behind it? Some juvenile delinquents. Like a gang? Wow, that takes me way back. Alright, let's hurry on back. Ah, they locked the door. Achi rushed over to the door. He tried turning the knob, but the door wouldn't budge. Oh, come on, are you freaking kidding me? He paced frantically around the room, pulling at his hair. We were locked in. And that door was the only way in or out. Achi and Hitomi were well and truly trapped inside the storeroom. Is this gonna lead to a bad end? This is all my fault, Achi said. It's my idea to hide here in the first place. He bowed to Hitomi repeatedly. We're never gonna be able to find that blue minivan now. Guess we'll have to get someone on the outside to help us, Hitomi replied. She scowled thoughtfully. They powered their phones back on in order to call for help. The big question was who they could possibly ask. Hitomi, anyone you can reach out to? Mr. Tanaka, I suppose. Tanaka, right. The suggestion didn't exactly thrill Achi. He had no idea what this Tanaka guy was like. Hopefully he was the dependable sort who'd actually show up to rescue them. But somehow that thought made Achi feel worse. Achi had someone he figured he could call, but he hesitated, uncertain. There had been a time when he trusted this guy more than anyone. They'd bailed each other out of countless jams. Nowadays, though, things were different. Hitomi gave Achi a puzzled look as he sat lost in thought. Right, guess I don't have much of a choice. Achi scrolled through the contacts list on his cell phone. He found a name he thought he'd never call again. Susumu. Yo, Achi, is that you? Susumu's voice was low and guarded. Look, I've got a favor to ask you. I'm in a real bind here. Huh? Like, things are ridiculously bad. I thought maybe you could help me out a little bit. You seriously thought I'd help you? Susumu's words were like ice. You messing with me or something, man? Now he sounded a touch angry as well. Painful memories flashed before Achi's eyes. Right then. Sorry to bug you. Just forget it. But Susumu hung up before Achi was even finished talking. Well, I guess that didn't go over well. No dice, Achi said to Hitomi with a lopsided frown. She looked back at him, her expression a mirror of his own. What should we do? What should we do? I guess we're back to Mr. Tanaka. Guess so. You want to go ahead then? Hitomi tried calling him repeatedly, but Tanaka didn't pick up. What could have happened? She muttered under her breath. Do you think maybe the kidnappers found out that Mr. Tanaka and I have been in contact? Achi shrugged. It looked like they were just going to need to find some way out of there on their own, and then maybe look for the minivan themselves. Achi strode over to the door and grabbed hold of the knob. He tried giving it a good, sturdy pull. Ugh, no good. Thing won't even budge. That door opens outward. Wait, really? Achi tried giving it a push. It still didn't open. Good. I'm glad it didn't open. If it opened after that, I would have been kind of mad. He kicked it. Oh-ho! The door wasn't nearly as sturdy as Achi had expected. I think I can make this work. He backed up to get a running start, then kicked the door with all his might. Hiya! The door went flying off its hinges. Aw man, that was way too easy. As he stepped cautiously out of the storeroom, he quickly scanned the surrounding area. There was nobody in sight. Looks like we're in the clear, he called. But Hitomi didn't come out, nor did she reply. Hitomi? She had her phone in her hand, apparently still trying to get in touch with Tanaka. With a tiny sigh, Achi leaned against the wall and waited for her to finish. Well, doesn't look like I'm going to have any luck, she said. You know we can leave now, right? Are you still holding out hope for your Mr. Tanaka? It's not that. I'm just a little worried. Oh, yeah? Okie dokie then. I'll just, wait around out here. Okay, I'll be right with you. Uh-huh. Achi shuffled his way back outside. Ouch! Okay. Oh crap. By the time Achi could finish processing the thought, he was already laid out on the ground. His jaw hit the asphalt hard. He bit the tip of his tongue clean off. Ew! The taste of blood filled his mouth. Well, he's dead. A moment later, he took a sharp blow to the head. He was done for. All the energy drained from his body. I really wasn't sure we were gonna hit a bad end after we, tore the door down. His mind whirled. His vision grew hazy. He began to drift from consciousness. Back when he'd run with Susumu and the others, he'd never left himself exposed to a surprise attack. There were plenty of times when he'd taken a punch that sent him reeling, only to spin away and come back swinging. This time, he hadn't even seen it coming. It was his last mistake. Heh, guess I've let myself go soft. Achi grimaced inwardly, muttering in a voice no one but he could hear. Hitomi, I'm so sorry. Bad end. Got attacked by the man with the crane. Which I guess means that the other dude didn't get him. Achi successfully managed to break into the storeroom, only to be knocked out by the man with the cane while he waited for Hitomi. Things might have gone differently if Hitomi had managed to get in contact with Tanaka. Why hadn't he responded to her calls? Maybe something strange had happened at the Osawa residence, or perhaps there was some reason he wasn't able to answer his phone. Oh no! Was he not able to answer his phone because we had him make us lunch? Oh no. Alright then. Well, I guess we need to not have Tanaka help us with lunch. I didn't... What was... We can jump to Kano. We also did make the, yeah, thing happen, so Kano can't die now. At least not for that reason. Okay, we're gonna go back to Kano's timeline, see how that works out. And then, I guess, we can make, Tanaka not make lunch. So that... See, I'm assuming Tanaka probably had his phone in, his coat pocket, but because he showed up to make lunch, he didn't have his coat on. That's probably what happened. Alright, let's go to the Syndicate's hideout. The car moved at a glacial pace toward the Crime Syndicate's hangout. Stanley pounded his fists on the steering wheel in frustration. They had no sooner set out than the traffic slowed to a near standstill. Kitty Kibitzer, thank you for that cheer. Let's not make lunch. Yeah, we need to not make lunch. Despite the occasional lurch, it never crept above a crawl. Kano stewed in the passenger seat. The case was rapidly getting out of hand. Now he had to worry about the safety of both Maria and her sister Hitomi. Never mind the fact that the detective Tateno had also gone missing. There were too many unknowns, too many uncertainties. His unease was growing unbearable. Also, Tateno hasn't radioed in, and, we can't reach him from our end either. Kuzu's words kept echoing inside Kano's head. What could have caused Tateno to drop off out of contact? Someone had gone after Hitomi while Kano and the others were busy tailing the attaché case. Could Tateno have been... No, it couldn't be. Kano was sure Tateno would have done whatever was necessary to keep Hitomi safe. Stanley broke the long silence. What's on your mind? Still thinking about that call from Kuze? Kano didn't answer. Look, if you're worrying about that other detective, the guy couldn't even protect one girl, Stanley continued. Not exactly a ringing endorsement. Don't you talk about Detective Tateno that way. I'm concerned about Hitomi Osawa, but the missing attaché case needs to come first. Stanley's expression remained stone cold. Kano flashed him a sidelong glare, then went back to staring out the window. A moment later, a flurry of motion in a nearby alley caught his eye. With a start, he recognized Sasayama. His fellow detective was caught up in an altercation with a man in dark clothes. Kano sprang into action, his body moving almost before his mind registered the situation. Sasayama! Flinging the door open, he leapt out of the car. Hey, wait! Stanley called after him. Kano was already sprinting towards the fight. Oof. The other man knocked Sasayama onto a pile of garbage. As Sasayama struggled to get back to his feet, his opponent looked down at him with a triumphant sneer. Kano finally got a good look at the man, and his eyes flashed with recognition. It was the perp who'd first taken the attaché case back at the scramble. Tariq El Karawan. You! Kano growled. He sped like a bullet to tackle Al Karawan around the legs. But Al Karawan nimbly stepped aside. Kano's arms closed on nothing but air. At the same moment, Al Karawan deftly wrapped an arm around Kano's neck. Kano felt a vice-like pressure on his carotid artery, a move known as the front choke sleeper hold. Constricting the carotid artery stops blood flow to the brain, causing the opponent to lose consciousness, also known as a guillotine choke. His consciousness quickly began to slip away. "Oh no, you don't," he snarled. Lowering his center of gravity, he got a hold of one of Al Karawan's legs and used his shoulders as a fulcrum against it. Nug. Despite the arm still crushing his neck, Kano managed to lift his opponent high into the air. He continued the movement to heave Al Karawan up and over himself, slamming him upside down into the heap of trash. Stanley strolled up to the aftermath of the struggle. "Well, you've got the brawn part down," he said. "Need some work on the brains." Al Karawan was sprawled out on top of a mound of refuse. He'd been knocked out cold. Sasayama coughed and sputtered. Kano went to help him to his feet, but Stanley stepped in between them. "What are you doing?" Stanley asked. "Helping Sasayama. What does it look like?" "We need to apprehend Al Karawan first. He's not even conscious. Sasayama can come first." He pushed Stanley aside and crouched down alongside his partner. "You alright?" he asked. "Yeah," Sasayama groaned. "You bailing me out, though. Can't let the missus know about that." "Mum's the word," Kano said. He slipped an arm underneath Sasayama and helped him to his feet. "I managed to find the guy who had the attaché case," Sasayama said, "but when I tried to arrest him, this fella came out of nowhere and attacked me." He flashed Al Karawan a nasty look. "So here we go again, disobeying direct orders," Stanley huffed. "What's the deal with the Japanese police anyway?" He shook his head in exasperation. Sasayama gave Kano a puzzled look, jerking his thumb at the American. "Who's this guy?" "It's a long story," Kano said. He filled Sasayama in on the situation. "Enough chit-chat. Hurry up and cuff this guy," Stanley said. Kano knelt down by Al Karawan's unconscious body, flipped him over, and proceeded to cuff his hands behind his back. Kano paused. Al Karawan's sleeve had slid back from his wrist. "What's this?" The unconscious man had a tattoo of a two-headed scorpion on his left forearm. Stanley strode over. "You find something?" he asked. "Yes, I think this guy might be the ringleader." Seeing the image had reminded Kano of something he'd heard back at headquarters, that the head of the foreign syndicate had a scorpion tattoo. He relayed this information to Stanley. "I see." Stanley called up Kuze on his phone. "You'll be happy to know that the guy with the attaché case is still at large," he said. "Apprehending the ringleader at this point shouldn't be an issue. One of your so very capable subordinates gave us a big step forward in the case here." "Wait a second," Sasayama murmured. "That was sarcasm, wasn't it?" Stanley hung up and called over to him. "Think you can escort this guy back to the precinct?" "Yeah, sure, seeing how very capable I am." Kano felt his phone vibrate. The display showed an incoming call from Rumi. "Hello?" he answered warily, keeping his voice down. Stanley had him a little on edge. "It's me." It was Shuzio. Damn it, Kano thought. He did not have time for this right now. But if he just hung up, he might be in even deeper hot water. "Kano?" "Oh, I don't know if it's really a good idea to listen to him." "We're hanging up the phone." It promptly rang again. Sorry, father-in-law, I really can't talk. I'm in the middle of work right now. I'm not your father-in-law. Ah, sorry. Anyway, bye. Kano bowed politely to his mental image of Fumi's irate father as he hung up once more. The phone rang yet again. Sir, I'm sorry, I really am in the... Mr. Endo, this is Dr. Saiki, calling from Shibuya Central Hospital. Huh? This wasn't Shizuyo. Kano didn't recognize the voice at all. Mr. Endo, are you there? Sorry, I think you have the wrong number. Oh, my apologies. I'm in a bit of a hurry. I must have misdialed. The caller hung up. Who the heck was that? He stared in incredulity as the phone rang once more. Hey, E-Block. Thank you for that cheer. Ooh, plot twist. Oh, this is terrible. Whoever it was, they were shouting frantically. And once again, whoever it wasn't Shizuyo. Hannah and I, we got separated. What? Who? I don't know what to do. It doesn't matter if I get away if they wind up catching Hannah. Please, you have to help me find her. The man on the other end of the line sounded like he was on the verge of tears. Kano wasn't sure what it was all about, but the guy was clearly in a pretty bad way. Please, Minorikawa, I'm begging you. Oh, right, Hannah's the little girl. Huh? I'm sorry, sir, I think you have the wrong person. By the time Kano had gotten the words out, the man had already hung up. Hey, come on, let's go. Stanley's voice snapped Kano out of his daze. Ugh. Grimly, he followed the American back to the car. Yet again, Stanley was thumping the steering wheel in frustration. Traffic hadn't let up one bit. It was starting to look like they might never make it to the foreign syndicate's hangout. Kano caught sight of a girl in a hoodie, weaving her way between the stopped cars on foot. He rolled down the window and called out to her. Let's see, this is Miku Morita. Was a fighter at the cosplay fighting pub Bride, but just decided to retire after losing to Tama the cat in a street fight. She's thinking about what to do with herself now. Ah, yeah, her. Excuse me, miss. Did something happen? Huh? What do you mean? With the road, I mean. What's with all the traffic? Oh, right. Apparently there was some big accident over by the train station. That's probably what's causing it. Really? Yeah, I don't think you guys are going to be going anywhere for quite a while. She smiled and went on her way. Stanley gave the steering wheel another punch. Well, I guess they did say this wasn't just some typical ransom case, he muttered. Kano saw an opportunity. If they're not after the money, then what are they after? Stanley kept his eyes forward, acting as if he hadn't heard. Look, Kano said, I can't help you if you keep me out of the loop. After a few moments of thought, Stanley replied with a single monosyllable. Drugs. What? Maria's father, Kenji Osawa. I assume you're aware he works for Okoshi Pharmaceutical? I am. Nothing's been made public yet, but Osawa recently oversaw the development of a new drug. The new drug is not at all uncommon for a new drug to be in development for 15 years or more, with expenses totaling 20 to 30 billion yen, roughly 200 to 300 million US dollars, before it is approved. Worldwide demand and sensational profits can be expected if a groundbreaking medicine is developed. Nonetheless, pharmaceutical companies are often under major pressure due to the tremendous costs of labor and equipment. And someone is trying to get their hands on it. Kano's mind latched onto this new piece of information, trying to assemble the pieces of an involving puzzle. Someone? Who? An international criminal mastermind. This foreign syndicate is merely a tool in someone else's game. Kano regarded Stanley's face carefully. It looked more cold and serious than ever. So wait, does that mean the reason we're letting the syndicate walk around unfettered is on my orders? Yes. I see. So the only thing you're really concerned with is catching this international mastermind? Precisely. Kano felt like he was starting to get a picture of what sort of person Stanley was. So you don't really care what happens to the girl who's been abducted, do you? Not particularly, no. Why do you have a problem with that? Kano clenched his fist. His hand was shaking with anger. Oh no, dick dictum. Dick dictum number 8. When you really want to punch something, you really probably shouldn't. Keanu recited the words inwardly like some sort of desperate mantra. If he didn't manage to calm himself down, he was liable to slam his fist right into Stanley's face. Outside the car, the traffic remained at a standstill. Keanu chafed against a feeling of utter futility. One after another, his uncertainties came to nag at him. Was Maria still safe? What had happened to Hitomi and Tatino, her bodyguard? And now on top of all of this, it struck Keanu as rather careless to send Sasayama away with Al-Karawan without any backup. Now that Jack had alerted him to the presence of a dangerous international mastermind still on the loose. Fighting back his fit of pique, Keanu got out his cell phone. To do something impulsively out of irritation, resentment, or the like, similarly to doing something in a huff. Interesting, I'd not heard this terminology before. Let's see. I mean, it seems like a good idea to call any of these. If we call Detective Kajiwara, that'll definitely affect another timeline. Sure. Let's dial up Detective Kajiwara. He hoped a little more information about the family's two daughters might have some light on the situation. The detective answered promptly. Kajiwara here. Hey, it's Kano. Kano? A horrid, jarring beeping was audible from the other end of the line. What's that noise? Kano asked. Sorry, hold on, I can't really hear you. Okay, go on. It sounded like Kajiwara had moved away from the source of the noise, though Kano could still hear it faintly in the background. He explained that he was looking for more info on the Yasawa girls. Honestly, Detective Kano, I thought you were more mature than this, Kajiwara said disapprovingly. Come again? Kano said, bewildered. What's with the attitude all of a sudden? You've got a little crush, don't you? Kajiwara told him. What? No, Detective, that isn't why. You mustn't let yourself get personally attached to an investigation. Still, I was young and impulsive myself once. I guess I can tell you one thing. Kano kept his cell phone pressed tight against his ear. The two girls? They look exactly alike. Kajiwara kept his voice low, as if he were revealing a major secret. But Kano knew this already. Everyone assigned to the investigation team had been informed that the girls were twins at the previous night's briefing. However, Kajiwara continued, still Soto voice, their personalities are pretty different. The younger sister, Hitomi, is quiet and reserved, but Maria is apparently more of a busybody. I see. Kano thought back on Hitomi standing in front of the statue of Hachiko. She had indeed seemed like an introvert, though Kano had also sensed her intense commitment to helping her sister. Perhaps she was less demonstrative, but her heart certainly seemed to be in the right place. Why? Kano heard someone shouting in the background wherever Kajiwara was. What was that just now? He asked. Mr. Osawa, girl's father. I think something might have happened. Kajiwara's voice was laced with concern. I should go see what that is all about. Yeah, probably. But Kano, tell me. Yes? Which one is it? Which one do you have a crush on? Good response. Kano hung up. I'm glad Kano hung up. At long last, traffic began to move again. Almost as soon as it did, however, Stanley had to slam on the brakes. The abrupt stop made Kano smack his head against the windshield. Hey, what gives? Look, Stanley said. He gestured with his chin. Kano couldn't believe his eyes. There, walking along the sidewalk ahead, was El Karawan, very much not in custody. What the hell? Kano shouted, already hopping out of the car. Stanley was right behind him. They crept up on their target as silently as possible, then rushed him once they were close. In a moment, they had subdued him. Kano used his own body weight to hold Al Karawan down. What are you doing out here? He demanded. Whoa, hey, guess you didn't get the memo, huh? Al Karawan flashed a coy grin. They let me go. Let you go? I think your buddy here might have hearing problems, Al Karawan said to Stanley. I'm a free man. Kano turned and glared at Stanley. What is he talking about? No idea. First things first, get this guy back to the precinct. I'll head to the syndicate hangout by myself. You don't think this is weird, Kano asked. I mean, what the heck is this guy doing on the loose again? What matters is that he is free. Maybe he's telling the truth about being let go. But that's ridiculous. Then I guess he must have escaped on his own, Stanley replied. In either case, your buddy screwed up royally. Now it's on you to unscrew things. None of this sat right with Kano, but the fact remained that he couldn't let Al Carawan go. He gave Stanley detailed directions to the hangout, and the car sped towards Yoyogi. I feel like we're probably going to end up having to make a phone call. We might have to go back and redo that phone call section. Then Kano headed back to the precinct with his captive, trying to reassure himself that he might learn something from questioning Al Carawan that would help resolve the case. This feels like we're heading to a bad end. Kano sat opposite Al Carawan in the interrogation room. He'd been attempting to interview the suspect for about a quarter of an hour. Al Carawan sat ramrod stiff, not responding to any prompts or questions. What time is it right now, he asked. They'd taken away his watch, his wallet, a small knife, and his keychain. That was the third time he'd asked to know the time. Why are you so concerned what time it is? Kano asked. Al Carawan gave no reply. Are you waiting on something? Again, the suspect was staunchly silent. Kano wasn't sure what to make of this, but he took a look at his watch. It's around 2 o'clock, he said. What time exactly? It's 2:18. Oh yeah, we definitely have a bad end coming. 2:18, and how many seconds? Look, just cut the crap. Kano grabbed the prisoner by the collar. What the hell are you people after? Al Carawan merely repeated his question. What time is it right now? With a growl of aggravation, Kano shoved his wristwatch in Al Carawan's face. Ah, it's 2:20, Al Carawan said. Okay then, that should do it. What? What does that mean? The interrogation went on for several more hours. Despite Kano's best efforts, however, Al Carawan said nothing more. During all that time, the case continued to develop in unexpected ways, but Kano, stuck in the interrogation room, knew nothing about it until everything was already over and done. Yep, this is bad ending. We probably have to make a phone call, a different phone call. While Kano performed admirably in recapturing Tarek Al Carawan, ironically his action actually disrupted the investigation. Maybe letting the syndicate run free for the time being really was the right call. Someone can do something at 1:40 that throws a wrench into Kano's activities, thanks to the involvement of unrelated parties, and Kano's reaction will make the investigation play out differently. 1:40, huh? Because there's no possible way of getting information into an interrogation room. Yeah, looks like... I mean, part of it could be a phone call. We could try that. Bad end on Achi here. We have to keep out Tama there. We didn't get far enough on Sawa. Alright. We said we were... Where'd the lunch go? Oh, what did I do? What did I do that had lunch go away? Yeah, I know. Bug trackers, picking up signals. That bug tracker's broken. Let's... This dialogue's different. To be honest, that bug tracker is all of a sudden different noise cutting over the bug tracker. Oh, it's because I'm... Yeah, it's because I phoned him. I do need to go back and change that phone call. We phoned him so that the, because we did the phone call that way, he didn't end up telling him that they'd eaten their lunch. Okay, let's dial up Sasayama. He dialed up Sasayama. He wanted to make sure his partner had gotten El Caron back to the precinct safely. Sasayama picked up almost right away. Kano, what's up? How are things on your end? Any problems getting El Caron back? Nah, I've got Tateno taking care of him. Wait, what? Kano could hardly believe his ears. You were in touch with Tateno? He asked. He could hear the shock in his own voice. Yeah, just bumped into him over by the precinct a little while ago. Then he is safe. Kano felt a surge of relief. What about Hitomi then? Stanley glanced over at him, curious. Tateno says he lost track of her somehow, and then he got called back to the precinct apparently. Tateno had lost track of her? That's not like him, Kano thought. Since he was heading back there anyway, I handed our guy over to him, Sasayama said. I see. Kano was glad to hear that Tateno was all right, but his relief was tempered by a surge of anger at the thought of what had happened to Hitomi. Now I'm back detailing the attaché case, Sasayama continued. Today's my wife's birthday, you know. My plan is to wrap up this thing up ASAP so we can celebrate tonight. I've already got a present and everything. I envy you, man. Closing his eyes, Kano took a moment to picture Rumi, but Chizio's face popped into his mind's eye right alongside her. Well, just hang in there, buddy. Even if your girlfriend is just a picture of Masami Nagahama. Midoriyama Academy graduate and national celebrity, her popularity shows no signs of slowing down after she played the female lead in such films as The Beast That Hoarded Gold at the Heart of the World and The Swidden Fortress. There is another nationally famous actress with the same name, but it is a nationally known fact that the two are completely separate people. Ha 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 ha. Still snickering, Sasayama hung up. Kano bit his lip and slipped his phone back into his pocket. Alright, and then I think this all looks to be... yeah. Yep. This is all... okay, so we changed that phone call. Just what we needed to do. So we could get here. Alright. We won't ask Tanaka to make lunch. We'll just pray something is edible, and it'll be fine. Kajiwa peered into the refrigerator. Goodness, you are remarkably understocked, he said. Let's see. Could you please put these in the dinger? Dinger, named for the sound a microwave oven makes, even when it has finished heating your food. The microwave, at my house, doesn't really go ding when the timer reaches 0, though. It's more like a beep. But it doesn't just make sense to call a microwave a beeper when there's already a word that refers to something else. The detective handed Osawa some frozen lumps of rice. The dinger? The heck is a dinger? The microwave oven, sir. Osawa stepped in front of the microwave. Unfortunately, he had no idea how to work the controls. You should thaw that rice out as soon as possible, Kajiwara told him. Not sure actually how to operate this thing. What? The detective gasped. You don't know how to use a microwave? Osawa could only nod in silent shame. It should be just as simple as turning the dial. Wait, which one? That one, sir. The one on the right. Osawa turned the dial, then crossed his arms with a satisfied grin. Mr. Osawa, you need to put the rice in first before you do that. Well, then why didn't you say that? Osawa snapped. I've never worked in a kitchen in my life. Don't ask me to do things that are this difficult. Very well. I'll handle this from here. Why don't you get out the bowls and the chopsticks then, sir? I have no idea where the hell those are kept. Kajiwara let out a heavy sigh. All right then. Please just sit and wait, sir, he said. And here, take this. Kajiwara pulled out a sheet of bubble wrap from his pocket. Use your fingers to pop the bubbles. That should help you calm down. Too drained to argue, Osawa did as prompted, starting to pop his way along the sheet. Alright, cool. And then the rest of the, looks like the rest of the dialogue ends up being the same. So that's fine. That should avoid the bad end here. Alright, we've laid low long enough. I think we should be on our way. He was about to get to his feet when he heard voices outside the storeroom again. Oh, yeah, that was really careless of us. Yep, better absolutely lock that door. Folks have been messing with the storeroom a bunch. Yep. Some delinquents, some sort of gang. And she rushed over to the door. Tried turning the knob, but the door wouldn't budge. Oh, come on. Freaking kidding me? He paced frantically around the room, pulling at his hair. We're locked in. And the door was the only way in or out. We were truly trapped inside the storeroom. It's all my fault. It was my idea to hide in here. We're never going to be able to find that blue minivan now. Guess we'll just have to get someone on the outside to help us. Hitomi replied. They powered their phones back on. Oh, Hitomi chirped. That's me. She took a look at the LCD display. It's an email from Mr. Tanaka. Ah, okay. Hitomi began typing out a response with practice ease. More wild delusions rose in Achi's mind. Fun fact, wild delusions. Ideas or fantasies conjured up in one's mind with no logical or factual basis. People can become deluded for varying reasons about a whole host of different subjects. Thankfully, Achi's delusions here are of an ultimately harmless sort. Okay. Stealing a quick glance at Hitomi, he noticed her gazing happily at her phone's screen. His delusions ran even more wild. While he was still fretting furiously, Hitomi finished typing her response. So, what'd you end up saying? Achi asked. I explained the situation. That we're trapped in a storeroom. You've got some guys chasing after you, and you're looking for some van? Yes. I also asked him to please keep this a secret from my family and the police. Whoever this Tanaka guy was, Hitomi sure seemed to put a lot of trust in him. A short while later, Hitomi's phone chimed with a reply. She checked the screen in a flash, all eagerness. Achi... I guess we should ask about it. What's that Tanaka guy have to say? A hint of jealousy slipped into his voice. He says he's going to try to find the minivan for us. Huh? If he just comes and let us out, I can go look for it myself. He says he wants us to hide out here a little longer. Oh, what the hell, seriously? He says that if someone's after me, it's safer to stay where we are. Yeah, I'm out of the running, Hachi thought to himself. This Tanaka was clearly pretty concerned for her. And there was really only one reason a middle-aged man would think that like that. Alright, fine, we'll wait. Hachi turned his own phone off, then slumped back in a huff. After 20 more minutes in the storage room, the two were sitting in silence. Achi had run out of things to talk about. Do you think you'll ever be friends again? You and that one guy? Susumu, I think it was? Hitomi's question caught Achi off guard. He stammered, unsure how to respond. Hitomi shook her head. I'm so sorry. I barely know you. That was insensitive of me. No, it's all right. I mean, sometimes I wish things could go back to the way they used to be, Hachi said. He let out a tiny sigh. What that Kiryu guy said was the truth. I was the guy who founded SOS. Do you know what I mean by that? Hitomi gave a slight nod. I mean, I never wanted to be in charge of a gang or anything, but I knew that if I left SOS, it would just fall apart. And I didn't want everyone else to get all caught up over who would take my place, you know? So I thought long and hard about it, looking for a way for folks to stay friends even after I was gone. The loud voice echoed through the pool hall that served as SOS HQ. A pool hall, an establishment for playing pool, more formally known as pocket billiards. This particular place is a pool bar serving alcohol. The standard pool table is rectangular in shape, sports 6 pockets, 4 in the corners and 1 in the middle of each long side, and supports multiple games, including 9-ball, 8-ball, and rotation. There are also tables without pockets. This style is known as carom billiards. Fun fact. What do you mean you're leaving? Susumu was positively red in the face. You're a founder, Achi. You can't just up and quit. Susumu had been almost like a younger brother to Achi. If anyone was going to try to stop him, Achi knew full well it would be Susumu. Look, I'm not a gang leader material. All I've been trying to do is make sure we're all able to have fun. That's not true, Susumu said. Think about all that stuff you taught us. Don't you remember? Every man gets to make one request in his life that cannot be denied. Those are your words, Achi. Did I say that? It's the heaviest thing you've ever said. Then, to Achi's consternation, Susumu got down on his hands and knees. I'm begging you, please don't leave. Without you, SOS is nothing. Achi could feel his conviction waver. I'm begging you here, from one man to another. This is my one request. Susumu, I'm sorry. Achi could barely croak out the words. I'm leaving you in charge. You can't, Susumu pleaded. Please don't say that. Achi turned his back to him in silence. Please, Achi, why won't you listen? I can't possibly beg any harder than this. Enough with all the request nonsense, Achi grimaced. What? Look at you, down on your hands and knees. Like that? Pathetic. Ultimately stems from the Greek pathetikos, meaning subject to feeling or capable of emotion. Over time, the meaning changed to signify exciting the passions, and later on to the more modern sense of arousing one's pity. Interesting. Achi spoke as harshly as he could, fighting to mask his true feelings. I'm fed up with you, all of you. With each word out of his mouth, Achi could feel his own heart breaking. But if he could make the others hate him, at least it would give SOS a reason to stay together. How can you say that? Don't you try and pull that crap. Susumu's tone had changed from sadness to anger. Fine then, he railed. I'm never asking you for anything again. I'll do what you want. I'll take the reins of SOS. And she walked away, waving vaguely without looking back. Good luck. I mean it. Once he stepped out of the pool hall, he wiped his sleeve across his face. It came away wet with tears. Sometimes I think that maybe I could apologize to those guys, and we could go back to the good old days again. But that's never gonna happen, not unless Susune gets better. He stared into the distance at nothing in particular. At least he sorted out how he felt about his former pals. Is there nothing that can help your sister? Hitomi asked. She needs a heart transplant, and the problem with heart transplants is that the timing is tricky. Heart transplants, the act of surgically implanting one person's heart into another's body. Such an operation is typically only performed on a patient with severe heart disease who cannot survive without a new heart. There are strict requirements that must be met before a heart can be transplanted. However, chief among them, that the donor must first be brain dead. Even if there's a donor available, the transplant has to be performed within 4 hours, or things get dicey. Within 4 hours, because lack of oxygen causes damage, referred to as warm ischemia damage. Ischemia? And any organ removed from a human body. A transplant must be carried out and blood circulation restored within a certain time window, known as the total ischemic, time. In the case of a heart transplant, total ischemic time is only 4 hours. Helicopters and charter jets are frequently used to rapidly transport hearts for such operations. Oh wow, I didn't realize. Someone with a heart that's a match for Suzune would need to die somewhere near her, somewhere they could perform the surgery within the 4-hour window. The odds of that happening are so small it would almost be a miracle, which is what my sister's been waiting for. Achi thumped the left side of his chest. If my heart would do the trick, I'd gladly let her have it. Damn it, and now I've got a strong heart too. He thumped himself on the chest again and again. He didn't mention it to Hitomi, but Susune's blood type made finding her a heart transplant even more difficult. I was gonna say, usually there's more than just that. She had Bombay blood. The heck? A type of blood that does not correspond to the more common types of A, B, O, or AB. In some instances, a standard blood typing yields a result of O in such individuals. First discovered in the city of Bombay, now Mumbai, on India's west coast, the blood type takes its name from the city due to its relatively high incident rate amongst the inhabitants. Okay. It was one of the rarest blood types in the world. Apparently there were only a few dozen people in all of Japan who had it. Rare blood types such as Bombay are scarce enough that even nationwide blood centers seldom have them in sufficient supply. For this reason, when such blood types are discovered in everyday testing, samples are quickly taken to be frozen and stored at temperatures lower than 80 degrees below centigrade. Alright. If Susune were ever to receive a heart transplant, it would need to be from someone who also had Bombay blood. Alright. Achi? Hitomi sounded like she was on the verge of tears. Wow, she must really feel bad for Susune. If you did manage to find a heart for your sister, what would you do? What do you mean? Say if you happened across someone who was a donor match. I would do anything. Anything? Yeah, whatever it took. I'd risk my own life if it meant helping Susune. I mean, at that point, I'd assume God had granted me a miracle or something, you know? Mr. Tanaka? Oh no. Unfortunately for those two, it's not Mr. Tanaka. Right now, Tanaka is at the Osawa residence, on his way to speak with Kenji Osawa, who's washing dishes after lunch. Tomi's voice was barely a squeak. For a moment, all was silent. Maybe it's just a cat, Achi suggested. Or not. Suddenly, someone hit the door, hard. It sounded like they were trying to break the lock. Really think that's Tanaka? Achi asked. I'm not sure. If it were him, I think he'd probably say something. Or he'd call you. You know, to tell you he was there. Achi grabbed Hitomi's hand. We'd better hide. The two of them slipped behind a large piece of plywood stage dressing. The door swung open with a loud creak. It's the man with the cane! Oh, we are goozled. In stepped the man with the cane. What the heck? Achi whispered. What's he doing here? Gun drawn, the assassin prowled slowly around the storeroom. Achi and Hitomi crouched behind the plywood prop, trying not to make a sound. The men moved out of their line of sight. Achi gazed longingly at the door. Achi risked a peek around the corner of the plywood. He still couldn't see the man with the cane. The door was maybe 5 meters away. What should they do? A safer chance to escape? He might not know we're there, for some reason. Although I feel like he probably does. Achi heard the sound of a cell phone vibrating from behind a tall piece of plywood leaning by the door. The assassin stepped out from behind it. He still hadn't spotted his quarry. I'm sure this is the place. His voice was low and confident. Uh-oh. Did he have friends? Still clutching his phone, the assassin wandered deeper into the storeroom. Achi and Hitomi took the opportunity to slip out the door. Is Mr. Tanaka letting him... Oh... I hope it's not Mr. Tanaka. They ran through the alleyways back toward the main road. Before they reached it, however, they suddenly found their path cut off by one of the foreigners who had chased them earlier, the accomplice of the man with the pipe. He stood waiting for them, holding a knife in one hand. Out of the frying pan and into the fire. If they turned back, Achi knew the man with the cane might catch up with them, and he had a gun. Achi slipped off his sleeveless jacket and wrapped it around his left arm. He was going to have to use his left arm to guard against the knife while punching with his right hand. He clenched his fist and braced himself. And then suddenly he froze. Huh? A small dark silhouette dropped from somewhere up above. Landing deftly, the newcomer lunged toward the man with the knife, closing the gap between them in the blink of an eye. Ugh. The figure delivered a swift chop to the back of the man's neck. Was it Susumu? He dropped to the pavement like a dead man, finally giving an Achi a clear view of the shadow behind him. It's the man with the anime tattoo. Achi couldn't believe his eyes. It was a small-statured young woman with Middle Eastern features. It's the lady with the anime tattoo. Hitomi let out a little gasp. Is that her sister? Kanan? Thanks, game. I guess we got somebody at least to the end of their chapter for the hour. So we've got you. We've got 2 of 5. The to be continued. Is this where the cat was? Yes. Let's jump to cat. I really want to read Tama's timeline. Not Mr. Tanaka. Come on. Give me cat. Cat. Nice. Sales demo's over, and against all odds, I managed to get paid. Money clutched in one paw, I head to the knick-knack shop to finally buy that necklace I can't stop thinking about. Hello? Anyone here, I call out? There's no reply. Oh man, now that I look at it, that necklace is huge. It's right there. Just kinda... It's like actually quite big. I thought it was smaller. Is the shopkeeper out? Just a moment. Panting, the sales clerk comes scurrying into the shop behind me. Sorry about that. Just had to pop out for a sec. Whew, you would not believe what I just saw. He leans against a pillar, gasping audibly as he tries to catch his breath. You're here about that necklace. Do you still have it? Of course. Thank you so much. I have half the money here and the rest is in my... Oh. I suddenly remember something very important. Oh no! The sales clerk gives me a curious look. What's the matter? My wallet. It's still in here. I pat the costume around my tummy. So why don't you just take the outfit off? Well, I mean, the zipper's kind of broken. I wouldn't be having this trouble if I could just get out of this darn costume. Kind of broken. It's way more broken than that. Sales clerk points me to a full-body mirror. He's right, the zipper in the bag is hanging open. Taking this thing off will be a cinch now. Oh, thank you. I give him a bow. I'm not sure you need to be thanking me, he says. No, I do. If you hadn't pointed that out, I might have let myself stay stuck in here forever. So I really thank you so much. I bow again and again. We got a little video for that. Veal. Yep. It's totally Maria. Neat. Alright, so we need to get to that, I think. We can probably do that through this one as well. Excellent. They changed the name from Dama, in case we didn't figure it out. Right, this annoying beepy noise. Director, if you have a moment? Tanaka poked his head into the kitchen. I've got something urgent to discuss with you. Yes, of course. Osawa took the bug tracker from his pocket and handed it back to Kajiwara. I won't be needing this anymore. As soon as they had left the kitchen, Tanaka leaned in close and whispered to him, I got an email from Hitomi. He showed his cell phone to Osawa. It looked like my sister is being held captive in a blue minivan somewhere in Shibuya. But that man is still chasing me, so I can't really go looking for it. Blue minivan? Allow me to handle this, sir. I'll figure something out. Osawa knew he trusted Tanaka for a reason. Thank you, he said with a bow. I'm starting to get suspicious of Tanaka. I mean, I'm also suspicious of Kajiwara. Oh, you wouldn't happen to know any place she might have gone, do you, sir? What? It's just that all she's told me is that she's been moving around. I'm sorry. I don't really have any idea, Osawa replied. He was ashamed to say it. There wasn't a single place he knew of where his daughter might be inclined to go. Ah, I see. Tanaka, picking up on his discomfort, was visibly embarrassed himself. He hastened to change the subject. By the way, how did your talk with Mr. Makino go? I confirmed that he was the one behind the human testing, but I don't know who sent me those emails. Tanaka paused for a moment in thought, looking like he might have a hunch. Alright then, he said. We'll have to talk in more detail later. With that, the assistant director headed for the front door. Mr. Osawa? Kajiwara spoke from the kitchen door. Peeping in on me again, huh? Osawa grumbled. Thankfully, it didn't appear that the detective had heard his conversation with Tanaka. And good grief, that thing is noisy. If it's broken, why don't you just throw it out? The sounds from the bug tracker grew fainter and fainter. Something wasn't right, Osawa now realized. Mr. Osawa, Kajiwara said. This is my bug tracker. So? Osawa huffed. What I mean is, sir, this one isn't broken. What? A chill ran up Osawa's spine. He swallowed audibly. I've pinpointed the source of the signal, Kajiwara said. It's coming from Mr. Tanaka. No, Osawa thought. I must have misheard that. Hold on, say that again. I've located the source of the signal. It's coming from Mr. Tanaka, the detective repeated. This time, Osawa heard him crystal clear. I'm certain of it. See, I told you! Mr. Tanaka has a listening device on him. Osawa felt the blood draining from his face. If someone had been listening in on the conversation just now, then they'd heard about the email from Hitomi. If the kidnappers were the ones listening, that meant Maria's life was now in danger. I'll go after him, sir. Kajiwara broke into a sprint. Osawa followed close behind. Okay. To be continued, to be continued. It's just this one bad end. We need to get rid of it. So, what was this thing again? Someone can do something at 140 that throws a wrench into Kano's activities. 140. Maybe here? Thank you for your time, Mr. Yanagishita. You'll excuse me though, I have to get to another interview. Oh no, of course. Allow me to walk you out. Yanagishita rose to his feet as Minorikawa got up to leave. Well, that won't be necessary. It's no trouble, I'm heading out now myself. Gotta run before those guys show up. Hmm? What guys do you mean? Oh, nobody. Just a personal thing is all. They parted ways outside the building, and Minorikawa headed off to the cafe to put his article together. Oh, perfect timing. Okay, that seems like it just gives me the same dialogue then, so it's probably not that. Oh, or maybe it is. It went away. Alright. Long last, traffic began to move again. Almost as soon as it did, however, Stanley had to slam on the brakes. Ah! A frantic-looking man had jumped out in front of the car. Whoa, hey, what the hell are you doing? Kano sputtered. The stranger plastered his face against the passenger side window. Open up, he shouted. Open the door! The guy showed every sign of total panic. Junichi Yanagishita. Something happened just after he parted ways with Minorikawa, and now he's running this way, and in quite a panic at that. Don't do it, Stanley warned. Kano hesitated. It wasn't like they could just drive off with his fellow clinging to the car. Please, you gotta help me. The man slipped his fingers in through the gap in the window, trying to force it open further. Help me. Whoa, hold on. What's your deal? Help me. Sir, just tell me what... Help me! Look up ahead, Stanley exclaimed suddenly. Kano whipped his head around. There, walking along the sidewalk ahead, was Al Karawan, very much not in custody. What the hell? Kano tried to jump out of the car, but the frantic stranger had gotten his upper body wedged into the window and the door wouldn't open. Stanley, his usual steely expression replaced with a look of shock, exited on the driver's side and went after Al Karawan himself. Kano shouted at the man in the window. Sure, get in? If the guy was desperate to get inside, Kano wasn't about to stop him. Besides, he needed to get the guy to calm down and let go of his arm. Al, the man yelped. Let go, let go. He was the one holding on. Why was he demanding to be let go? What the hell is going on? Just as Kano's thought was forming, the crazed stranger was yanked back out of the car, dragging Kano with him. A pair of rough-looking men had grabbed him by his lower body. No, no, he screamed. I can't do 80 days hard labor. Somehow he was still managing to cling to the car door. Just give it up and let go already, snarled one of the assailants. The pair shifted their grip and pulled even harder. Kano heard the sound of tearing fabric as the two toughs tumbled backwards. Of course. Just like that, the crazed stranger was stripped down out to his boxers. He let out a pathetic wail. Aw, man! The two toughs burst into uproarious laughter at the sight. Now's our chance, one of them managed to sputter. The pantsless man snatched up his ruined garment and bolted like a startled hare. To dart off incredibly quickly, in the manner of a fleeing rabbit. Yanagishita runs a lot more like a rat than a rabbit, though. Thanks, game. Still cackling madly, his two pursuers rushed after him. Kano was still staring dumbstruck at the spectacle when Stanley returned to the car. No luck. I lost track of him. This doesn't make sense, Kano said, forcing himself to refocus on the case. Al-Karawan was taken back to the precinct. What's he doing walking free? Stanley gave him a dubious look. Have you seriously not figured it out, he asked? Or is this some kind of strange Japanese joke I'm not getting? What are you talking about, Kano replied. Do you know something I don't? Evidently I do. Your detective Tatano let him go on purpose. That's the only explanation. Enraged at the suggestion, Kano took a swing at him, but Stanley coolly caught his fist. It's not me you should be punching, the American warned. It's Tateno. Abashed, Kano radioed up Kuze on the wireless. Sir, did Detective Tateno bring Tariq Al-Karawan into the precinct? It would appear that, Detective Tateno has gone rogue, Kuze replied with chagrin. He what? Surely Kano had misheard. We've received an eyewitness account. Someone saw him allowing the suspect to go free. No, it can't be. We currently do not know Detective Tateno's whereabouts, or just what the hell is going on with him. After Kano ended the call, Stanley let out a low chuckle. Heh, I see. Looks like you had a traitor in your midst. Kano grabbed him by the collar. Stanley snorted. What are you trying to pull here? Tell me what you know, Kano snapped. All I did is state the facts. Look, I watched that man risk his life to talk down a would-be arsonist. He's a dyed-in-the-wool detective. He'd never betray anybody. I see, Stanley murmured. Then he's the real deal. Kano stared in surprise. He expected an argument. Good, he said. I'm glad we're on the same page. Tateno risked his life in order to get people to trust him. He's a dyed-in-the-wool spy, is what he is. Kano didn't have the words. His clenched fist trembling once again, he fumbled for his cell phone. He dialed Tateno's number. The phone rang 5 times, but failed to connect. There has to be a reason for this, Kano muttered. Tateno must know something we don't. Really now, Stanley scoffed. And what makes you so sure of that? Because Detective Tateno was sure that this kidnapping wasn't about the ransom. Kano's mind drifted back to 9 o'clock that morning. Ahead of their stakeout at the Scramble, he was walking with Tateno through the halls of Shibuya's precinct. We're going to do a bang-up job out there, Detective Tateno, he chirped. He was maybe a bit too excited about getting to take part in such a major case. Tateno patted Kano on the back. You need to take a step back. You're not letting yourself see the forest for the trees. What do you mean, sir? What I mean is that this is no ordinary kidnapping. Tateno's words triggered a little revelation. You're talking about the location for the ransom handoff, aren't you? Kano said. It doesn't make sense for the criminals to pick such a major intersection. Warmer, Tateno replied. Kano frowned inwardly. He'd been so sure that that was the answer. Have you thought about why they asked to have the sister make the handoff? Kano thought some more before answering. Because women are easier to deal with, he suggested? Colder. If that was the case, why not pick the mother? No, what worries me is the fact that the Osawa girls are twins. They're having us send someone to the handoff who looks identical to the girl they kidnapped. What's going to happen when we do that? What is going to happen, sir? Kano asked. I'm not sure yet, but I have a feeling the kidnapper's plan hinges on it. The two exited through the precinct's main entrance. Up ahead, rows of buildings stood tall against a backdrop of bright blue sky. It sounds like they wanted to kidnap Hitomi over Maria for some reason. But I'm not sure why. But I do think they specifically wanted one over the other. Tateno let out a quiet sigh. To think that so many terrible things are happening out there on such a beautiful day. Solve one case and another was waiting, he went on, as always. What is it about people that drives them to do such horrible things? A girl abducted out of pure greed? When I think of how her parents must feel, I almost can't bear it. They made their way toward the Scramble. Tateno continued talking in a quiet voice. My father was a raging alcoholic. The house was always a complete mess. He was loud, violent, never had any money, always reeked of booze. My mother, she would cry and cry. I was afraid to come home. Every day I stayed out playing as late as I possibly could manage. Kano could hear the pain in Tateno's voice. That life took too much of a toll on my mother. She died when I was still in grade school. And my father, he just got worse. I was there with him at the end, after he'd wasted away to almost nothing. Not the sort of childhood I'd ever wish on anybody. Sounds like you really went through a lot. Kano hated himself for uttering such an empty platitude, but he had no idea what else to say. Kano, as old as I am, I still don't really know what it is to be happy. I think that's probably because I've never known what it's like to have a happy family. Tateno sounded so forlorn. The only happiness I know how to protect is other people's happiness. Kano heard in those words the soul of a true detective. Is he gonna add that to his dick diary list? I just hope you're ready. Kano did his best to keep his voice as calm and level as he could, lifting up his clenched fist. Because if I find proof that Tateno is innocent, I'm planting this right in your jaw. Stanley just cracked a wry smile. The traffic had finally diminished, and they rapidly drew close to their destination. The syndicate's hideout was in Tomigawa. It's the southwest of Yoyogi Park. The ratty building looked like it might come crashing down at any minute. The Black Lodge sign out front looked deliberately ominous. Kano knew the place as a bar frequented by expats from various countries, as well as a hotbed of criminal activity. I'll take point, Stanley said. You back me up. He pulled a handgun from his suit pocket. It was a compact Glock, a model frequently used by the FBI or CIA. Kano drew his own gun, and the two cautiously made their way inside. At the end of the hallway was a wooden door. Stanley signaled with his eyes. Kano gave a tiny nod, and Stanley kicked the door in. The stench of blood hit them as soon as they stepped inside. Kano let out a startled gasp. There were nearly a dozen bodies sprawled out across the floor. He recognized them all. They were men who'd participated in the repeated attaché case handoffs. Each appeared to have been stabbed to death. Stanley took a closer look. The blood's not fully dried. These guys weren't killed that long ago. Kano quickly scanned the bar high and low, but there was no sign of killer in hiding. There was no trace of Maria either. One of the fallen men let out a faint, strained groan. Hey, Kano called out. Stay with us. He hunched down beside the wounded man. Work. A brief gurgle rose from the man's throat. He was clearly struggling to say something, but his voice was too garbled, too indistinct for Kano to make out any coherent words. Kanan. What was that? But there was no more. The dying man went limp and still. Alright, we got everybody through 1 o'clock. Now it's 2. Oh, this is cute. That was very cute. I wasn't expecting that at all. So, I know it's a little early, but I think we're going to call it there because that hit us at the end of kind of a chapter point, which was nice. And we only have like just about 15 minutes. so it's not gonna get us very far. I think it'll be way easier for us to keep track of what's going on if we start at the beginning of the hour. Next stream is going to be at, what day is it? Friday? So our next stream is Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Normally I've been trying to go until 2 p.m., but I have a lot of work I have to get done. So we're gonna do 10 to noon that day, and we're gonna be playing the longest 5 minutes. We're gonna continue on with that. I'll still be doing that Monday morning as well, and then next week, Wednesday's stream is unfortunately canceled because I will be out of town for a couple of days. But other than that, I think that's the only disruption in streams over the next week is Wednesday not being a thing, and then Sunday mornings being cut down to 2 hours. Battleground Games Live, thank you for that raid. Unfortunately, I am just finishing up. Sorry about that. But thank you for showing up. Kitty Kibitzer, thank you for that 100-bit cheer. Let's go raid... Kate? Yeah, Kate's playing PUBG. That seems good. So we're gonna raid Kate. I think that's all I've got to say for now, so I'll see you all around and you guys take care. And I will go sit up or raid for Kate. Lobster Revenge, thank you for that. Bye.